Welcome to the Under the Hood Show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. Welcome to our Saturday morning broadcast. If you are joining us on the feed right now on Saturday morning, October 30th, you can see that we're live, and that's not usual. We are
live.
We are in the studio right now on a Saturday morning getting some calls, trying to get your questions answered. So give us a call, 866-594-4150. Let's go to Texas and talk to Harold. Harold, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
That's Gerald.
Oh, Gerald, go ahead.
Got a 99 Ford Ranger that the ignition switch went out on. And I've got another steering column put in there. And when you turn the key on, it all comes on, but the stealth light keeps flashing and it won't start the engine.
One would think that a 99 Ranger's old enough you wouldn't have to worry about that, wouldn't you, Russ?
You would think, but no, it's got it. Now, there's some 99 cars and trucks that don't have it, but this one does. If you had a problem with the key switch where you couldn't turn it, that's why you changed the column.
Yeah.
Well, now you've got a new key in the new column, or at least a used one, different one, but you're going to have it programmed. You're going to have that key programmed to the vehicle by a dealer or just an independent shop that's got a scan tool that can do that, that's connected to the factory software. Otherwise, if your old key was good and the column was bad, you could just swap keys in them. You could just turn the key on, push the little button up underneath, and pull the whole lock cylinder out, and then it would work just fine.
What was the original problem you were trying to solve?
Well, the ignition started just sitting there turning completely around.
Yeah, so then you had to change out the lock cylinder because that was your problem. And so when you switched out that, like Russ said, when you switched out that column, can he change?
Yeah. So I was just thinking about that. There might be, you still have your original key, right?
Oh, yes.
Good, because some people throw those away, and I don't know why until it's ready to go. But look at your original key, and there might be, if you look at the side of it, it's got that big fat top on it, the plastic part, and there might be what looks like a little door, like a battery compartment door that you can pop open. If there is, and your new key has the same thing, you can pop both those little doors open, and there's looks like a little pill in there that's silver. You can pull out of both of them and swap them. That is the transponder that makes that thing work, the theft part work, and you just swap them over, and then it'll start and run just fine.
What's the chances of that happening?
Oh, pretty good. We do it a lot.
Okay.
And you know what?
I've heard of that, but I didn't realize all the keys were that way.
I didn't even know that a lot of them had that until our guy Jake in the shop said, "Hey, why don't we just swap this? There's a little door here." And I went, "Oh." So we swapped them, and then it worked.
I thought you were going to tell him to cut the head off his key and braze it back together.
No. The other thing you might do just to test to see if your key works, it is possible that you might be able to take your old key and turn it around backwards so the blade is pointing out, not in towards the column, and hold it right to the key you have in there now. Hold it right up against it tight and try to start it.
Okay.
Hold it together while you put it in the ignition and then turn it on to start. And if it starts up and runs, that's a great indication that's all that's wrong with it. But we've seen some people do that. I even saw one guy one time, he had cut the metal part off his old key, and he had it like electrical tape to his new one and was starting it. Because sometimes you've got 2, 3, or 4 keys on your ignition anyways, and it gets confused with that signal. So as long as it sees the right one there, it'll go. But I would say if it's got that little door that you can flip open, swap it. Otherwise, what you can do is take your key to like an Ace Hardware store or a Place Auto Parts store that has a key cloner, and what they'll do is they'll take your old key and they'll put it in the machine to get the code from it, and then they'll set that key aside, and then they'll cut a new key based on the on the key you have. And if it's an experienced person cutting those keys, they'll know exactly what to do. They'll know what you say. If you mark it with some permanent marker and say, look, this is my old key, this is the new one. I need the teeth on the new one to match the code in the old one. And they might be able to fix you up with that way. I know they could here locally if I went down to the hardware store we have that does that specifically.
Okay.
That give you some ideas?
Yeah, that helps out.
Thanks very much for the call, Harold.
That's your fastest way without spending a ton of money. Just
You know,
take both keys down.
that story reminds me of a paper I brought with me here. I've had it sitting here for a bit. I got my little stack beside me of just interesting things that I run across.
We'll be the judge of that.
Okay, that's fair. But Federated Insurance had sent out Claim of the Month, and they send this out to their auto dealers, and we're a member of the Auto Dealers Association, so we get some of that information. And here was the Claim of the Month. I think that's my phone making the noise there.
I like Berkeley One Classics Car of the Month.
Oh, yes, they have that. I love that.
They got some beautiful stuff there.
So this here says that several luxury vehicles have been stolen from dealerships with the use of relay boxes. Relay boxes can receive and transmit an electronic signal from a vehicle's key fob through walls, windows, and doors to the vehicle. The electronic signal tricks the car into thinking the actual key is there. Now, this would be a key fob-only vehicle. It doesn't have a physical blade going into it.
Which is most, I think.
Unlocking it and allowing it to be started. Claims can add up quickly, and if cars are stolen in this manner. But there are many ways to help dealerships stay safe. Remember, investing in theft protection can go a long way. So I ran across this, too, in the Corvette Club my mom and dad are part of. There's people that have got some of the new cars that have the push-button start, well, quite a few of them. And they have gone to using a little container that they put their key in that's an RFID or a frequency-preventing
like a wallet?
chamber
RFID
that they
wallet?
put their key in, their fob in their pocket, so that it's always protected unless they need to get it out for starting the car. And I did not think this was that big of a deal, and I still think it's pretty infrequent that it's going to happen. But here is a insurance company that is telling new car dealers this is a real thing. This could easily happen. And so they're telling the dealerships in this case, keep your keys in a protected metal box inside a secured area and away from the public. Consider using steering locks on vehicles in the dealership lots. Have a written employee key control or risk management program that emphasizes on I can't say that word this morning, Chris. It must be the early morning thing.
Emphasis on the syllable?
Exactly.
That's hard. It's early.
Theft prevention and follow up with training to enforce the program. Make sure that the employees that have access to keys all know these guidelines. Keep your property well lit. Protect your lot. Fencing, barriers, blockers, vehicles after hours. You'll see that a lot of times in dealerships where they'll put a car sideways across all the entrances but one, or sometimes I've seen them do it on all lately, where you can't cruise the lots like you used to. Well, right now there's nothing to look at on a lot of them, but that's just the way it goes.
Hard to find a car fence these days.
It is. Install security cameras, and they talk about central alarms and motion detectors. So this was coming right from a company that insures a lot of dealerships, and hearing the same thing in the Corvette Club, it just is a reality of the world that we live in, that kind of thing can happen.
There's been some systems I've seen out there that are along the lines of the remote starts people have for cars that allows you to disable your car, theft protect it, basically.
Interesting.
When the remote start is armed, which is a different frequency. So people looking, if you've got a box.
So we're talking about they're putting in an aftermarket system.
Yeah. So if you've got that box that is going to scan for those frequencies of these factory keys, that's a different frequency than what the remote start's using. So these thieves go, okay, we'll scan for the thing. Well, now we've got your key code, and we're going to come back at night, and we're going to steal this brand new car. We can't steal it because it's disabled now. So if you own like one of these Corvettes and you've got this aftermarket remote start in there that's got this disabler in it, they're going to come up. Sure, the doors might unlock, but they're going to get in and go, the button's dead. What's going on? There's nothing here when I hit the button.
Not this one.
So they've cut the wires and gone in there, and then they move on quickly. When they're on a heist, they want to get in and get gone quickly. And if that car doesn't go, they're going to.
That's no different than the stupid bandits that run around towns and look into cars that are unlocked and they rifle through them, find what they can find. Have you ever watched some of the security footage, like in a neighborhood where there's a lot of cameras? Those crooks just go right on by the cars that are locked. It's the same thing. There's a barrier. They go right on by them. But the ones that aren't, they stop and dig around for a while, see what they can find. What kind of treasures might be out there?
Did you read the bottom of that article? The last line said, "Please don't share this article with anyone."
I
Don't
probably
talk about
I screwed this all up.
Yeah, don't.
Everybody's probably Googling right now.
This is private.
Where do
Please
I
don't mention this on the radio or TV or anything.
Where do I get a relay box?
Yeah. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Teresa. Teresa, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
I just wanted to ask you about a 98 Dodge Ram pickup. It's a 1500, oldie but a goodie, I guess you could say. There's an old battery on it. It's blowed up this summer. It had acid like everywhere, and it's still on the truck. Is it going to hurt for it to be on the truck because of the fact that it did? I mean, it's lost all of its and I don't know. It was a good battery, and I went out there and opened the hood one day, and there it was. And I was like, oh, God, what happened here? So I guess it just got too hot, or I don't know.
I want to mention, Teresa, you're calling from Brownwood, Texas. Where is Brownwood?
It is 79 miles, or 80 miles from Abilene.
Okay. All right. Russ is pointing on his map.
He's got it.
his
Well,
arm
Russ
around-
is our Texas
It's crazy.
Resident.
Yeah.
Texas mapologist.
There you
It's
go.
crazy because nobody really knows where it is, and I'm like, we are in a big hole here, So.
I've been there.
And the humidity
Through
is
there.
horrible.
Just like South Dakota.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so this battery now.
Yeah, so here's what Shannon, tell her what to pour on that battery
Have
now.
you cleaned? Yeah, I was just going to ask, have you cleaned it up at all yet?
Under the hood, everywhere.
Oh, yeah, you can't even tell. It even blew up. I'm going to say blew up. The acid just poured out of it, the water. I mean, it's clean. It's hot.
Oh,
Did
get
you use
another
like
one.
baking soda and water or something that you can use, mix that up and you can use it to diffuse that acid?
Dr. Pepper.
I didn't do anything. I just cleaned it all up. And, I did take the little lids off on each side and put water back in it,
That battery
I had
needs
to
to go
die.
away. That battery
Yeah.
needs to be properly recycled. It needs to be gone.
Yeah, that battery's done
All
if it
right.
did that. What probably happened is it was probably getting old. It probably had a plate short out inside, causing it to generate some acid, and something ignited the fumes from that hydrogen gas coming out of there. And what was going on is that, maybe a battery terminal was a little loose, or even inside when the plates get bad, they can just spontaneously explode sometimes. Or if it's hot enough outside, the heat beating down on it when it's 100 degrees, that's possible too. So, definitely replace that battery right away, because it's not going to, if it does have a charge and does start, it's not going to last very long.
And if this truck does sit quite a bit, it'd be even more reason to invest, in some cases not even more, but depends on what you're comparing to, but get yourself an AGM battery. Our partners Clarios have educated us well over the years about the importance of an AGM battery for storage, downtime,
They last so much longer.
recharge capacity, how quickly it can recover. I mean, those batteries recover super quick. And just the structural makeup of the battery makes it a much more stable battery, period.
And this is
And it's not going to have the caps on. It's a sealed battery. You don't have all
just
that
a
stuff.
heads up, when you go to buy an AGM battery or they're more expensive.
That's I said. In most cases,
Yeah.
it
You always
will be.
pay for better quality.
Well,
You don't pay for better quality?
ads on our show are more expensive, and my other radio show, and the quality's not super high on that thing. So
On your other radio show?
yeah, so that doesn't necessarily work out there. But
Well, yeah, we have a better quality than that other show.
exactly.
But your other show is fun.
So
We like it.
how much more is an AGM battery? Because everybody thinks
Well,
still that we're going to go spend $60 on a battery.
Well,
That's what we
no.
Those days
A
are
regular
gone.
battery. A regular battery,
I should look.
on average, most regular batteries we sell are going to be in that $125 to $140 range. That's for just a flooded battery. Now, AGM depends on the size, because some AGM batteries are $95. Some are $300. This Dodge, no, not $300. It's probably, I'd say an AGM battery for this Dodge is probably going to be $140.
As
You
you
know,
say,
compared to
between 100
$125 for the other one.
Yeah, 120 to 160 is what I was going to say, somewhere in there.
And I know this because of purchasing ones for my own vehicles this past summer, where I was comparing, apples to apples there, and one was just a little bit more. So, if you're paying $25 more for something that's going to keep you from having to jumpstart it even once, that's
An
perfect.
AGM is the makeup of the battery.
You absorb
it's the
glass mat.
technology of the battery. That can come in many different brand names of batteries.
Mm-hmm.
So
Lots
you
and
want to
lots of
ask, is the composition of this battery, is it made as an AGM battery? And you'll see that in different brands at different parts stores.
Pretty much if you own any of the newer cars that have that start-stop little circle thing on the dash that you hit to disable because it annoys the heck out of you, it's going to have an AGM battery in it because of the start-stop technology. It might even have two batteries. Might have one battery for that and one battery to power the rest of the car.
Just say what you're thinking. Just say what you want to say about the battery.
It's awesome.
Optima. Those are AGMs.
Optimas are all AGM too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean that's what we're thinking. And
Well, that is kind of the brand that first put AGM batteries on the map. AGM batteries were already happening.
Well, we were putting
Under
those
the-
in our stereo vans 30 years ago.
Exactly. But the Optima brand really brought them to the market as far as an all-position battery, a marine battery, a extreme heat cold battery. That's where the AGMs
We
with
put them in
Optima
our
started
stereo
right
vans
away.
upside down, which is really cool because the able to put them in any position is great. You'd see them in those stereo cars, just have like laid down sideways where you see all the terminals facing you. Can't do that with a regular battery.
I think Teresa just fell into our black hole of conversation
kidding.
here. She's still there. Did we kind of forget about her? We got so
I'm right here.
we got so excited about AGM batteries that
Yeah.
we totally forgot you were on the phone, I think.
well, there you go,
Okay,
Teresa. Does that help you out?
I just had breakfast listening to y'all now. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yes, it did help me.
She had breakfast.
Thanks for the call, Teresa. She made breakfast actually while we were talking. She
Yeah.
went in and got
Fried some eggs.
Made it for us. She's going to fax them to
fax
us.
it. 866-594-4150. What has caught your attention in the automotive world? Should we just talk about Saturday morning? I mean,
Stuff.
we're here. Yeah, we're here on a Saturday morning.
Here we are.
I'm
doing
going to
our
walk
thing.
out and try to share my show. How do I do this, guys?
Just do it now.
do
Just
it now.
yeah.
'Cause, I mean,
We'll ignore you.
why do I get the noise all the time when I do it? I'm fairly literate at this stuff, so I'll go to the page.
Because if you open a post
Yeah.
on Meta, when you open a post, it's going to start playing noise.
I have autoplay on apparently.
Yeah, so when you open it, just turn the volume all the way down, and then you got to figure it. You got to go turn that
There it
volume
is,
back
right
up.
there.
So
No, it's not. I'm
Chris,
not there
you-
yet. There it is, right there. Well, I did that before, and it started playing. All right. Okay, I got it. I know. I've done this before. Every time I try to do it during the show to share our live feed, I turn it on, and all of a sudden you guys are like, or else that's how I feel. You're looking at me.
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm feeling just like that.
I just turned your mic off and.
I just put a link to our page. I didn't actually share it. So
Oh, okay. YouTube too. We're on YouTube. We've got questions coming in. I have already answered a few notes in the chat saying you're live. Live? Like you're live now?
Yes.
Yes, we're live now. All right. Here's a question. Are you done over there? Shannon?
I'm now trying to put something with it.
okay.
I'm with you.
Well, just
Kind of.
finish up.
No, you just
Come on,
go,
just-
say what you're going to say. I'm listening. I guarantee it.
Okay.
What'd you
Russ,
say?
is everybody?
it
Everybody?
is live on your channel.
All right. This came in on the YouTube chat. 2000 Pontiac Bonneville.
Yeah.
Turn signals do not work. Only when it's raining. Any advice on what could be the reason?
Only when it's raining they do not work.
King, thanks for the note too. Big fan, he says.
Any advice?
Yeah.
Don't drive in the rain.
Don't drive in the rain.
Yep.
I'm aware. This is why I'm not good at this job. I mean, I can't help out
You're good at this job.
automotively.
Okay.
I mean, when someone calls in, like this one, when I read this, I went, oh, yep. I remember that being a thing. I remember someone had that on Pontiacs.
You know, it's only funnier than that one is when they say my wipers don't work, but only when it's raining. Like, well, how do you know they work when it's not raining?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I turn my washers on, they'll work, or if I bump it. But when it's raining, it doesn't. And with the wipers, something different. But we'll answer his question first. anyways, it's probably actually water related outside under the hood, possibly a ground issue. But I'd have to be sitting in the car watching the dash. When I turn it on, does it glow? See, we're live right now, so he could comment actually as we're talking. So, does anything happen when you turn the switch on? Does the turn signal chevron light up? Chevron, that's what they call a little thing.
Yeah.
That is high level stuff right
So,
there.
anyways, if it lights up and doesn't flash, or does it light up? Does it flash and just not work outside, or when you turn it on, nothing outside, but the green light comes on inside, or blue light? That would be interesting, because I would think it would be a ground under the hood, which they have 2 of them up front on those turn signals. But if it is,
does it make a difference whether it's a cold November rain?
no,
Nothing out of Chris on that one.
you can't do that. You can't, no.
Yeah, it wasn't the right one.
Okay,
Because,
but they know what you're talking
Guns
about.
N' Roses is a big blocker. They're very on YouTube. Yeah,
They'll go after it.
yeah. As soon as
Say we blocked your
automatic,
channel
yeah.
because you had a very poor
somebody
rendition
whistled.
of the wrong
Somebody whistled
song.
after somebody made a poor joke.
Yeah, and then they went on and they said, I don't know if that was a good enough joke to even be. So
Blocked.
then they didn't block.
I think so. But no, I would want to know, is this take like a downpour, or is any moisture in the air do it? Is it just a little bit of moisture in the air does it?
Bonnevilles.
You have to be driving.
Remember the leak that these Bonnevilles had? A few of these had windshield leak, and it would run down inside the passenger.
We actually got a few of those that we had to dismantle.
Just thought about that. What if it's coming down and getting on that body control module? So another thing you might do, because that's more realistic than losing the grounds up front if everything's completely out.
Yeah, because 2000 would be the Impala style newer Bonneville, right?
Big car, the big car with the the one with the nice looking.
They changed it. It was a better
kind of
looking
modern
car.
looking, yeah. So, yeah, it is possible. I would say if I had it in our shop and was trying to figure it out, I would probably be pulling that lower panel down under the dash above my feet and reaching up in there, because that's where the body control module is. Does it feel wet?
Yep.
If there's any moisture under there, or there's moisture underneath the carpet, it doesn't take much. That would cause it to fail. And then you want to address that.
Is it all lights not working, or is it just some? Would be another question.
Yeah.
We don't, like you said, to witness some things happening at the same time always helps. To see what else is working, what else isn't working. That always helps.
I'm waiting to see now if King will answer those questions.
We haven't. I think we've milked it about as long as we dare
Yeah.
to see if there's going to be an answer or not.
I have another question that just came in on the Facebook chat. David wants to know, 2015 GMC Terrain. I heard we should do something to a valve cover or vent so it doesn't freeze up and cause engine issues in the winter. Have you heard of this issue?
Well, it's not just a wintertime thing.
Okay.
It's a all-the-time thing. This, along with other vehicles, such as, just had a guy call me yesterday asking me for some advice, and I gave him advice, and it involved a spark plug that kept fouling on Silverado pickups, and number 6 cylinder, and his was an 08, and it was a similar type of advice. I told him to check. Get a valve cover. Get a redesigned valve cover. Now, we've given this advice to a lot of people, and it's helped some. Some, it's too late. They've damaged the engine already because they've lost oil or gotten an intrusion of moisture or sediment into the engine that's caused cylinder damage, and it's too late. But there is an updated valve cover because the positive crankcase vent, the PCV system, is integrated into that valve cover. And there are some people I also know that have a few of these models. I know the other one was a foreign car that had a similar problem. You could get online. It was a Mini Cooper, I believe. And you could buy a little kit that somebody sold on Amazon to rebuild the small diaphragm and stuff in the valve cover, because the valve cover from BMW Mini was quite expensive or not available or something. I can't remember what it was, but this is a true statement this person is bringing up. And it's the moisture can get trapped. And, of course, it would freeze to a certain extent in the wintertime. Once the engine warms, it should melt out of there. But definitely that updated valve cover is something the person has. Because they redesigned the baffles in them, made it a little bit more freer flowing. But a lot of this is caused by, we talk about these things a lot, making sure that you're running a good fuel, making sure that you change your oil on a regular basis so you get the contaminants out of it.
Good oil.
Making sure you keep the vehicle on a regular basis, getting good drive cycles through it. So If the car makes a lot of short trips, doesn't warm up, and you don't get a chance to really, as we call it, I don't know, you hate to use the term, but you heat it up, burn the heat. The heat burns moisture out.
I took an oil cap off, Shannon, yesterday on a Dodge truck, one of the big fat ones, so that's like a big funnel built into these V8s.
Yep.
Took the cap off and literally poured water out of the cap. Water, clear water. It had so much in there. The longest drive they had was the drive out to our shop, which was 20 miles from where they were at in the last 8 months, year, very shortly. Ironically enough, this is the same guy who had 50,000 miles on his Park Avenue. Now this is his truck. But the truck got very little driving on it at all.
Now I'm just going to do this like we're on the... David, does that help you out? And David replies on the phone. I think this is specific to the terrain. Does GMC have this, or is it aftermarket?
It is not specific.
Does GMC have this?
It is not specific to the terrain.
Okay.
It's Ford vehicles. It's some Chryslers. It's GMs, mainly GM and Ford. And we talk about that catch can all the time.
Yeah.
It's a built-in catch can.
So what he's asking now is GMC have it, or is it aftermarket?
This is, you need to go to GM for the OEM replacement. But I just want to make sure for other listeners, it is the same engine with the same valve cover in the Terrain, in the Equinox. They never put that in the SRX Cadillac. They were 6 cylinders, not the 4 cylinders. But same engine was used basically from 2010 till 2015.
Okay.
And if you want to save a little money, you can use our partner at DormanProducts.com. They make aftermarket valve covers for most of the ones with the high problem rate. I'm sure they just looked right down the line and said, okay, look at all these they're replacing. And they did it because that's where we buy our GM replacement valve covers from all the time in our shop.
Okay.
And put them on, and they're a pretty good price saver for us. And it's exactly the same design, maybe even a little better. It's tweaked just enough to.
Well, yeah, a lot of times they redesign the problem areas.
They're an OE fix company.
Yes.
They want to fix. Which if OE's got a problem, let's make it a little stronger or redesign it and get it to actually work.
Well, sometimes for them, they can be a little more nimble and quicker to the market with a replacement that is. They don't have to worry about whether it's the same part number or not, or how they're going to handle it in their catalog. They just make the part.
That is true. So we can explain that just a short bit here. Why would the factory wait so long to do something when the aftermarket, like Dorman, comes up quicker? And exactly what Shannon said. They can't just redesign it and put it into their inventory in the factory. If they do, they have to upgrade the part number or the suffix number at the end, if it's like AA or AB or AC. They got to change that. Plus, they have the inventory they already have to get rid of. And a lot of times, if you were to go in, let's say you have a GM one, and you go in and you just bought a brand new valve cover that's exactly like the one you have. Since it's all clean and flowing well, your original worked for a while until it clogged up. Well, this new one would probably work for a while too, but it's not a redesign with a fix. So you could still get an OEM one if it's real early in this model build.
And then sometimes they'll say, here's the superseded part number. And they don't often change a part number just to change a part number. By the way that recalls work and the way the safety systems work, if you make a redesigned part, you're supposed to put a new part number on it. Because I think somebody got their hand slapped pretty bad on that. Was it during the ignition switch deal?
That's what first came to my head, but
that
I don't know.
They came out with a replacement part, but didn't change the part number, and so they had a hard time identifying which vehicles actually had the changed part in
I
it.
just remember one had a little picture that said, if this is the new one, this is the old one.
Yeah, so that's something that's very... I always wondered about that. We said, why do they have a superseded part number? Did they just get bored with the other one? No, they usually didn't get bored. They usually made a small change to it, and the changes are typically for the better, and then they'll update it, and then they'll say this part number fits all these other applications.
And what gets us is, as a used automotive recycler, and it can be hard sometimes. So if you've got a computer like a Ford, there are times where we literally have 20 different numbers. Oh, I've got an F-150, and it's a 2001, so it's a little in the middle year, and it'll say, which part number do you have? Is it 6ABD 1250 AF, DF, GC, AB, LM, and OPQR? I'm like, are you kidding me?
And then sometimes you get down to it and they do all that asking and you look and they all go to the same replacement part number.
Yep. And if you don't have a good salesman, and we have a lot of really great salespeople, that the first thing they do when they type it in and it pops up with a bunch, they don't even look at them. They look right to the right side of it and see the interchange, and the Hollander number is 1234A. They're like, oh, they're all the same. Any one of these? Okay, now we've got it. But a person that's not experienced will be searching through all those part numbers, maybe 10 minutes trying to figure out which one you have. And then they realize when they click on it, it comes back and says, well, I've got this one, an exact match, but that's a GF. I have an AB. I was one of those people in the beginning. I finally figured that out. Our guy Scott says, hey, let's look over here and see if it matches. Oh.
There's only 2 we got to worry about. That's what I usually do, too. You find out. There's only 2 of them that got a different interchange number, so let's figure out which one of the 2 you got.
866-594-4150. We are live on a Saturday morning, October 30th. We'd love to hear from you.
Halloween's coming.
Here's another comment that came in on Facebook. Spider-Man Dan wants to know, why do you think, before we go to what color is his car, why do you think he got the name Spider-Man Dan? Well, either he gave it to himself or someone, or it's just a username. But what is
I'm going to guess that he, at some point when he was younger at a party at high school, climbed something.
Okay. And they just started calling him Spider-Man.
I think he had a red car that he had painted up with spider webs. Like black spider webs.
I don't think that's a chance.
I'm
is that's what it
positive
is.
You know why
not
I
it.
think that? Because when I was in high school, there was a guy who had a car that was red, and he had painted like a big spider web on it with permanent black marker.
You think he's going to tell us if we talk about it long
I
enough?
know. I'm hoping so. Here's his question. 2017 Suburban LT rear end has a squeak when going over bumps.
What year again?
2017
17.
Suburban LT rear end squeaks when going over bumps. Tried silicone spray on moving parts.
I usually only have a squeaky rear end right after I get out of bed.
Depends.
Clears right up.
Depends who's around.
I am a little bit suspect that could be coming from 2 places.
But it's only over bumps and stuff.
Yeah.
So that probably, does that eliminate one? Are we thinking on the same page?
Well, they have a load leveling shock system on those vehicles. And that can be suspect because they start to corrode, and they will actually make noise when they corrode, and they start movement when the moisture intrudes inside those shock absorbers. But that is extremely worn when they start doing that. So it's probably more related to sway bar or that sort of a thing, a bushing on the sway bar, the trailing arms that are on there, or the panhard bar that goes across. I mean, there's about 3 different links on there on the rear end, and then you actually have the sway bar back there with it.
I'm thinking that too. I had U-joint in my head, but that's only a constant in-motion thing. And boy, we're supposed to putting U-joints in really new cars. We've done some 18s and 19s.
Well, they got the same basic setup they've had underneath there since 2000.
It's a U-joint.
Yeah.
When did the U-joint... Hey, there's a good one, Chris. When did the U-joint first come out?
I'm going to guess,
joint.
in my mind, 2020.
No.
Oh, okay. Let me guess again. 1702.
Maybe.
I mean, you're asking, that is the wrong...
My
I'll say
Model
this.
T does not have U-joints.
I remember replacing several in my buddy's car, and by replacing, I mean he'd ask me to hold it up. He had to do several on his Ford flatbed pickup, so that was like a 77. So I'm going to say it was before 77.
It's early. It's got to be 1920.
I'm thinking it goes back, well, it would have been open drive shaft, not enclosed drive shaft. So, and I'm wondering how, and well, some of the enclosed.
Oh, is this a question for me to look up?
Yeah.
We're actually leaning that way for
I thought
you.
he had a question.
Because I'm guessing, let's say it's.
Well, this came up because Russ suggested squeaky U-joint.
Oh, yeah, the squeaky rear. Back to the squeaky rear end.
Mm-hmm.
And on the guy that had the 17 Suburban, Spider-Man Dan, which I was hoping he'd chime in and say why he's Spider-Man Dan.
Well, now I'm Googling stuff. So.
If he says, well, back in Texas, I had this car that was red and I painted it.
Then we're going to
with
look at you and say, oh, my goodness. If
it.
that
I'm
was
going
the
to go,
case.
Dan. I don't, you know that guy's name. If it was.
Or he just would walk around when he was a child and he would like shoot fake webs at people all the time.
I think it's just because it rhymed, but let me see. Let me see what he said. Keep going.
Okay. Well, we were in such suspense. We're looking at you like, has he got an answer? Does he know? Kind of like right now, Spider-Man Dan wants to know, do we have an answer for him?
He says, Spider-Man Dan, we answered. No, I had spiders when I was a kid, and I have spider tattoos. That's solid. And it rhymes.
So it's Spider-Man, as in actual spiders.
Spider-Man, yeah.
Not like Spider-Man, the franchise.
I should send him that video of my grandson with the spider.
No more. I don't need. No, you don't even need to talk about the video.
Did that creep you out?
Oh my god.
That one with the big spider he's got that's like half the size of the front.
Creeps me out too.
Yeah.
And then you know something better? They lost that spider.
Yeah, you told us.
The day after that, he comes in every day after school and he's playing with it, and he pulls it out of the cage and it disappeared and they never found it.
You know what's worse than having a big spider in your house? Losing a big spider in your house.
They didn't lose it in the house. They lost it in their pet store, their exotic
Probably got
pet
eaten
store.
by a exotic tortoise or something.
No, they're predators, so they think it was pregnant when they lost it, so they think.
Oh my goodness!
God.
Don't even.
End of the show. Goodbye.
And they typically die after, so they
Sorry.
think it just went off somewhere. But it was really cold, so they think if it got.
So
up,
how many babies?
I'm out.
Does
A
a
lot.
tarantula have?
a lot,
When it's pregnant.
but they never found any.
All right. Let's go back now. Let's get off of this.
Way back.
All right. So
The
the U
spider
joint.
It's all because of Spider-Man Day.
I was covered in spiders yesterday, guys. Literally, I was. So I'm on.
Chris is about to leave.
I'm just turning his mic off. So let's go back to the U joint. The first known application of the U joint was more than 2,000 years ago. And then in 1545, hold on, an Italian mathematician came up with a way to do it. Then we're moving on. 1676, they started using it in some applications. Now, Clarence W. Spicer got a patent for the U joint in 1903 and demonstrated it on a self-designed car. And then he began manufacturing U joints in 1904.
There's
Now,
Spicer is
when did
still
that-
the big one.
Is it really?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
they're
That
they're
name
huge.
is huge.
They are the gear and joint people.
Okay.
Period.
Apparently, he made good with that. And some people invent things and nothing comes of it. They invented something and it stuck.
Hey, Darren, welcome. We're glad to help you. He's listening in Australia, and it's midnight there. First time he's been up late enough to actually watch our show because it's normally
because we're early.
at 3 a.m. or so. Yeah.
A little bit of midnight oil.
A little later or earlier. But yeah, there you go. Hey, Darren, thanks for joining us.
So
All right.
back to the spiders.
No.
On the Jeep.
We got to let him finish the
So I'm
story
working
now.
on this Jeep, putting a rear end in it. It had been sitting outside for 2 months waiting for the rear end. We get the rear end in and we're working on it. And these things, these little tiny ones,
What kind of Jeep?
that's the Jeep CJ I was working on.
Okay,
That black
all right.
one is a 89.
No, it'd have to be like pre-87 because otherwise it was a Wrangler.
This, it had an independent rear end, so whatever year that makes it. So I'm working on the thing, and this thing, I'm like just smacking these little things that I hate those things. I cannot stand. I'm not holding that transfer. If my grandson can do it, I'm not. No, absolutely not. I don't like those furry things crawling me. So I've got these spiders all over me. So Matt goes and he's air hammering over there, and I'm like, I've had enough of the. I can't take the loud, so I reach over and I grab my ear protection, my headphones off my. Pull them out. They're sitting. I have masks like those 3M masks in a big box.
Particle mass type
Right,
stuff.
and
yep.
they're in a box that they came in, so it's 4x4 square, and it's like a tower. And I just stick my headphones, those pictures, like the chainsaw guys use, right over the top of the
Like it's a fake head.
box.
Yeah.
Yeah, with my safety glasses, and I'm hanging up my headphones now. So I put these headphones on like this, and I turn back over a couple feet to work on this car, and something's crawling in my ear.
Oh my gosh.
I always grab the
This is getting worse.
headphones and I look in there and I, like Chris does all the time on the show, to make sure that there's nothing in there. And there's never been anything in there. And I'm like freaking out. So I whip these headphones off and I'm like, I pick them up and there is this little tiny piece of paper in there. Because I had been tearing up a piece of paper on my desk, and somehow it ended up on my toolbox, and somehow it ended up there where these were, but it got in there. So because the spiders were in front of me, I was freaking out thinking there were spiders. But
Enough.
I went home last night and I was still.
I'm calling it
just
right
like,
now. Enough. Chris,
I've got spiders all over.
I'm with kind of like Will Ferrell. I'm on fire. He still thought he had.
Yeah.
He just turned down $29 million
Yeah,
to do an Elf 2.
he did it. I don't think that's a recent story, but yeah, it just came out that he turned down 29
Pay him more.
million
I
for-
love that show.
He said he couldn't do it from a.
The script was terrible,
Yeah,
so he didn't want to
he's
make
at
it
odds
again.
with the writer, and he couldn't do it from a. How do you say it? Basically, he couldn't get into it again.
He couldn't do it because it wasn't a good movie.
Yeah,
it
he
wasn't
would be
going to
f-
be good. He
yeah.
didn't think.
It's kind of like Austin Powers. He said, "I'll never do another one again unless it's funny. I'm not going to do it." And then he did one. And I think was there rumors? Isn't there another one going to be coming? I think there is.
866-594-4150. Let's go to David in Michigan. You're on the Under the Hood Show. David, what can we do for you?
How you doing, guys? Yeah, I'm just right outside of Russ's in Livonia, Michigan.
Nice.
Are you?
Years ago, the wife and myself. Good. Well, years ago, the wife and myself stopped in there on a vacation. Met you
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
but
Oh, yeah.
Hope everybody's doing good.
David
Excellent.
S.
Yeah,
How are you doing? How's the Firebird? How's my Firebird going? You still taking care of it for me?
I am looking at the 455 hanging on. Oh, this is gonna be terrible, guys. Hanging on the picker because I decided to put the water pump on a switch and left it outside running and forgot to flip the switch. So when I got out there, it was like 300 degrees with a nice lower end knock. So she just got rebuilt. And ready to go back in.
Oh,
Yeah, that was my fault. I wish I had a better story for that.
Dakota Digital automatic fan controller for the water pump too.
Yeah, that's what I need to do. So I put everything on a switch about 15 years ago when switches were everywhere, and I forgot to switch it on. So, yep, that's the problem with that car. But now I got a new problem with the new car. I have a 2016 Corvette convertible, and can't get the top to go up. It dropped down, won't come back up, keeps throwing a code for invalid switch voltage. Switch checks out, and new switches are on back order till 11/22.
Yeah, we are running into so many things like this with back orders. They drive you crazy. But I bet because of the people that have written into us and calls I've had on a few of these, I think you probably have a bad switch, even if it's checking out. There are ways to bypass that in order to get the top up.
Well, it's in storage, so it's not a huge deal, except I just don't want it to get, those permanent wrinkles sitting all winter.
And you want to keep the spiders out, right? No.
Yeah, especially for Chris. He do not dig spiders.
No.
So, yeah, don't want spiders. But
No, I would
when I look
put it up.
at the owner's manual, it says there's a manual mode,
Mhm.
but I can't seem to get it to release pressure to let me manually move it. So it's probably that switch, huh? Of course, everything's on back order. So will a scanner, you think, have a choice of forcing that top up?
I'm not sure. I've never had to do one on that, but there are a few vehicles. I know I had a Mercedes in that was I want to say that was a 2009 up at our place, and yeah, the top wouldn't move, and I used the scanner. I got in it and I turned it on to get up, and I was able to get the top up and close it. The problem with that one was the roll bar was stuck and wouldn't go down, so I had to go in and tell the roll bar to go down manually. And when I did, once I got it down, then the top would come up, and then the bar
Because there
would
must have
come
been a
back
safety sensor on the roll bar that said if this is
Yeah.
here, you can't do this.
Well, some of these
Right.
cars, it's been operator error, which is weird to say, but it is. So if you buy a car, and like this one, David's used, of course, but if you buy one and you've never used it and you put the top down, maybe you had pulled in your driveway for some reason, you had the parking brake set and your foot was on the brake, you had it in park or whatever, you roll the top down and then you can't get it back up again because you don't have, it asks for certain things like set the parking brake or different things. Same way with the four-wheel drive switches where you have to put it four-wheel drive low, you have to have it neutral with the engine running and your foot on the brake in order for it to shift to low, but you can't put it back into four high again or two-wheel drive unless you duplicate the same conditions. So people are saying, my truck's stuck in low, I'm sitting here with it running in park and it won't go into two-wheel drive. Well, that's certain conditions need to be met. Same way with that top. switches have to be in certain positions, windows have to be in certain positions, all that kind of stuff.
I just went to our partner,
Yeah,
car-part.com.
Mm-hmm.
The options for that are convertible top boot, top lift, top motor, or windscreen. Under convertible. For roof, you can just pick.
So, Shannon, if he wanted to switch, what would he do if he was searching a car lot?
Well, I would probably that search that Chris is just making on car-part.com. In order to have a switch, you're gonna have, in order to have any of those components, you've got to have a convertible car.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone has a convertible car because they have a boot or because they have unless they acquired one through the aftermarket surplus or something like that,
I see what you're saying.
then you could call that place and say, hey, do you still have the car that this came off of? I'd like to buy the switch from you.
And I can search roof convertible.
Yeah.
And then
I would look up somebody that has a whole roof listed and then contact them and see if they're willing to. And I'll just tell you, the day and age that we're in, labor is at a premium and orders are backed up. That's like any company. You're going to have to make it worth their while.
You're going to pay more for that than you would for that new switch.
Because if you called me and
it's
said
not
I
available.
need to switch, and they said, well, the switch is only $37 new. All right, well, if it's only $37, this is a very common line of questioning by my staff nowadays. Well, if it's $37 new, you should just go buy a new one. I can't get one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, then what's it worth? I mean, we're not trying to hold you over the barrel, but we have, like in our system, on any given day, we've got 150 to 200 orders in the hopper waiting to be processed. And the average ticket is not $37.
Right.
The average ticket is quite a bit higher than that. So we're not going to go.
Yeah, I would pay.
You'd pay, yes. But that's what you'd have to tell somebody and say, hey, I'll give you $100 for this switch if you can go sell it to me, and I will not return it. It'll be non-returnable. I'll buy it from you as long as I know you had an operational
and it's
car.
not wet. It's like, guys, but they've got to be.
They got to send you a quality part.
Yeah, they're not going to go, oh, well, here's a wet one.
But something that Russ said that we really should just hammer home, though, is with that system, my mom and dad have a Grand Sport convertible in that same era, and I'm just trying. My son
How much does he want for his switch?
I don't think that one's gonna be for sale. But my son used that for his senior prom, and I'm just trying to think what the conditions were that had to be met for that top to go down. There are other things that could make that top not go down. Let's say
now it's not coming up.
Say the rear trunk wasn't quite closed all the way, or something was slightly jamming that, or that switch wasn't right and sending the signal. If a shift indicator wasn't sending the right signal, there are other things that could, and you know that could stop that top from moving.
Oh yeah.
Because like on the newer C8s, you can lower the top and raise the top up to a certain mile per hour. I don't know if the I don't know if the C7s. I think you had to be stopped to move that top. Correct?
No, it'll do it rolling like up to 23 or 25 miles.
Well, that's faster than I thought it would have been.
It's faster than it feels like you should when you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're waiting for it to be like a parachute and just kind of take off.
Yeah, I'm thinking, what am I going to tell my friends if it rips off? I was trying to close my top and didn't feel like stopping. It's not a very good. It's not a very good story to end there. You're going to hear that one the rest of your life.
How long have you owned the Z06 convertible?
I have owned it almost 2 years, and she's about 740 wheel right now, actually 738. So, it's a good car, and I got rid of my G8, which was about 1,300 wheel and a 600 shot, and it was too crazy. I'm getting old.
So he went down to 738 from the thought. Yeah,
it was good move at your age.
Yeah, it's basically... Yeah, New Balance in teen short time,
So what do you think of the? What do you think of?
I looked at I didn't buy a pair of New Balance yesterday just because they were perfect, but I didn't buy.
I went right past that because I saw you were going to ask my question. What do you think of the reveal of the new C8 Z06?
That I will have another car on the road that I can pull next to that I can't afford.
Yeah.
They.
I mean, I think they're awesome. I think they're awesome. I mean, it's amazing, but man, I just don't have that cash. Or if I had that cash, I'd have been one of the first guys.
They just it's kind of crazy to think that GM is going to have we're going to have an American muscle car with a red line closer to 10 grand.
Supercar.
It's they're entering Ferrari territory, Lamborghini territory, and it'll still be a value compared to that.
They have to be playing the long game on this, right? I mean, it can't possibly cost as much as they're selling it for.
No.
Can it? I mean,
No.
the price that the manufactured suggested retail price on this car, there is no way they are making any profit on it, is it?
They already had a car that was designed that they had to make some tweaks to, but they ate up their the whole budget of designing was pretty much done. And I'm sure along the way they said, oh, you know what, down the road we could make it look like this. This would be cool.
They were planning these new variants, I'm sure, from the beginning. It appears they've got an electric car plan for this thing and everything. You look at the way the rear engine bay is set up and things. They've got this thing set up for a long future.
You know, the whole electric car thing with these reminds me like when we were kids and you could get the
real quickly. Let me jump in and let David go so he doesn't have to sit here all morning. David, I did just look on car-part.com, and I don't, like Shannon said, there are a ton of places with roofs and parts for those roofs. So if you get in touch with them, they may be able to help you out. Thanks very much for the call, David.
That's the direction I'm going.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys, as always. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Okay.
You know, you could get gas-powered options if you wanted a really fast one, or you get the electric option that was slow. I'm trying to think of, there's one that really stands out, and I can't remember what it was, but it's like, you know, you can get the cheesy option or you can get the real fancy option, but basically it was the same vehicle either way when we were growing up. And now the same thing with this, you know, they just keep adding. But
this Z06 is going to be kind of crazy in the fact that they're going to have a Z06 with a Z07 package available, and it's got a ton of carbon fiber stuff on the Z07 package. They're going to have the lightest domestic rim ever produced on a Corvette will be available on that Z07 package.
So cracking the old ones that were stronger weren't enough. Now they want something that really cracks easy.
Yeah,
right?
they're going to have, I think it's a carbon fiber rim or something. I can't remember what it's made out of, but it's some super alloy rim. And the car's it's physically going to have wider fender wells. It's a whole different machine.
And here's my point. And here's what I mean by the long game. They are selling numerous models of vehicles for much more than that Corvette is at MSRP. Now, we're not talking real money here because you can't get one for that right now. So it would be very, very easy for them to sell the new Corvettes at 140, 150 easily, right? But they're not. Now, what will I have to pay for one? Maybe 140, 150. But so for whatever reason, they're taking, I think that, I mean, that's got to be why, right? They just want people to be back into it.
They are taking and trying to put General Motors on a pedestal by making these cars available, saying, look what Detroit can do.
Right.
Look what we can do. We can build this. We can compete on the world stage, and it doesn't have to cost $750,000, $500,000. We have the technology. We have the workers. We have the engineering.
Well, maybe not the workers.
But we have the people. And like every engine in the Z06, they're going back to what they did with the old ZR1 motors, hand-built, signed by the person that made the motor, assembled the motor in the car on every single one of them. They're all going to be purpose-built, that engine. It's pretty cool.
We are live on a Saturday morning. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. If you're watching the stream now on Saturday, October 30th, we're live in studio. If you're watching it later, you should have been here. It was great. Yeah, we were having fun. 866-594-4150. We would love to have you call us. And what we're doing is, with Thanksgiving, we record the show on Thursdays. And with Thanksgiving, obviously, on a Thursday, we always record a show ahead of time or use best ofs. So what we are doing now is trying to kind of build a show for Thanksgiving and other times, and just actually, we know most of our radio affiliates air the show on Saturday or Sunday mornings, mostly Saturday mornings.
Right now, there's calls coming in from a lot of our.
Yeah, you can hear us on in the background. That's always cool.
I want to ask producer Doug. He just took his headset off. Have we given you any content you can use yet for a show? Very little?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I said, we haven't had any of the real pure,
Yeah, it's fine.
typical show.
He's a magician.
He is a magician.
You're assuming that on regular shows we give him a bunch of material that he can easily use, which is
I'm not assuming. I think
Yeah.
we do. It's solid.
He's
that
going
is
to take out all the "we're here on a Saturday mornings."
what he just said, Doug, was someone who it's easy.
Someone
He
that's
can
never
do
edited
that.
a show
Yeah.
before.
It's like when I say, why don't you just take the manifold out and put a new one in?
I've
It's easy.
I've
Russ.
edited like 30-second phone system introductions
Yeah, there you go.
on Audacity. Does that
I
count?
think we can hear you now.
I forgot what I was going to say because I was waiting so long to.
There was a long
to
pause
turn
there.
My mic on there.
that might
No,
work.
I asked
We
about
were
if
talking about editing and
content. Did we
he
give you
said-
any content?
He said we always make it easy on you. I've said you never edited a show before.
And that is why I always keep extra calls if people call in after the show or whatever. I hang on to those, so I'll be able to put something together.
I sure hope so because I really enjoy Thanksgiving and I don't want to come in and do a show.
I don't think. Yeah.
I would rather eat, be
Ditto.
fat, happy, and miserable, and watch football and hang out with the family than do the show. I'm
But-
breaking news.
I do want to say this. I don't want our families to hear this, but can you imagine what it would be like to watch football in this studio with these monitors and the screens and
Turn it all
would be-
on?
oh yeah, that'd be great.
And if we don't like that, we can go out to the big conference room and crank
Yeah,
that up too.
Yeah, yeah. We should just have Thanksgiving.
We
Just me and you. Bring a couple plates up.
Russ might be in Texas, or no, he'll be here.
I'll be in Minnesota.
Yeah, he'll be around.
Minnesota, not in Texas, y'all.
866. Stop talking. 866. This is where now when I say this,
3, 4,
this
6,
is a
1,
point where he can edit it,
2,
but we have to
27,
stop talking.
6, 8.
866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. There's a behind the scenes too. When you listen to the show and you hear me give those numbers, a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm making an edit point for our producer Doug.
Yeah.
Neat, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
look at you're learning all sorts of stuff.
You know what else is going on? A lot of people have said, read the comments on some of our posts, but on YouTube here
Don't
and
read the
Facebook,
comments ever.
they say, so they're like, boy, it's really awkward during a break because during the break, you see this logo here that pops up and it says we're on a break and there's nothing there. People are like, well, why do you have that on YouTube and Facebook? Well, because we are on the air live
Right.
on the radio at the same time, as well as being taped and podcast and all that. So we have to take a break because the local station that's running it is playing commercials. So then we come back. So we're still trying to figure out what to throw up there, but it's only temporary because YouTube has a thing where when we go in and edit, we pull all those commercials out, so it's blank. So if you watch a show
Right.
3 days later, it's always gone. But if you watch it right away, sometimes it takes them 24 to 48 hours to get it processed, depending on
So
what
there's
their load is.
2 to 5 minutes of deadness in the middle, and
Yeah.
that goes away after.
Just
we
hit the
get it
skip
done.
10 seconds button if you're watching early. If not, just watch your shows a couple days behind, and you're good to go.
All right, so I'm going to turn this music on for everybody. I'm going to go back and start it over, and then we're going to take a quick break. We have 2 minutes.
Okay, here's where he does his
We'll be
magic.
back.
I
All
got
right.
time to do my magic?
Yep, let's go.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. We are live on a Saturday morning. It's October 30th, the day before Halloween, the week before daylight saving time switches back. Are you a fan of the changing of the clocks?
No, I would prefer it to be darker in the morning.
Which it will be now.
No, I'd rather just, if the time stays, how does that work? Because if the time stayed like it is.
Right now, the sun rises in where we are about 7:45 a.m.
Yeah, and we're going to switch, we're going to fall back, so it's going to be lighter earlier.
An hour earlier.
Yeah, and darker. I'd rather.
But it's going to also switch to what the problem, the reason we switch it now, I think, is because it would rise at like 9 a.m.
And that would be great. I'd be
like
perfectly fine with that. I'd rather have a little bit, because when I get home, it's like, okay, I'm driving home in the dark. It's dark. So basically for me, I'm going to work in the dark, coming home in the dark. I'd like to be able to come home in the daylight and, grab my garbage cans and put them away, that kind of stuff. At least have a little bit of daylight. But it feels like it's so late at night when I come home now because it's just dark.
That going to work in the dark and coming home in the dark there are things about it I like. And there's even signals, it even signals some things I like literally football season, hockey season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that never seeing the sun is not ideal. And I did just learn this recently. Do you know why we do the clock? Why we change the clock?
Now or back originally?
Now. I mean, what's the reason?
I have no idea why.
Was it originally to save energy?
It was to save energy. And what was funny was I was listening to a news story where they asked people, hey, why do you think we change the clocks? And everybody said, well, the farmers. So they could, and that's why we still do it. And I was listening
school
to
kids going to school.
I was listening to one of the heads of one of the big farmer lobbying groups, the Farmers Union or one of those, and he said, "Yeah, just so you know, it has nothing to do with farmers anymore. Hasn't for a long time because farmers work around the clock. It doesn't.
The clock doesn't affect.
The clock has no effect on farming.
They've got such amazing LED lighting now when you drive by those big farmers out in the field.
And when you're doing it, you're doing it. It doesn't matter how dark or light it is.
Make hay while the sun shines is just a euphemism.
Yeah. 866-594-4150. All right, here's some questions that came in on the Facebook feed. Here's one from the Facebook feed from Paul. It says 2015 3/4 ton pickup. Has a 6.0. It's ethanol friendly. Most time I'm running E85, and when it's not available and I put in 87 octane, the check engine light comes on. But when I put E85 back in, the light goes off. Why is that?
Well, that's exactly opposite of what it should do. If it's ethanol, the more of a biofuel like ethanol you put in a vehicle, the leaner the engine will. The leaner fuel mixture will be going. Let's start it over. The alcohol next to gasoline, straight gasoline, will burn leaner naturally.
The ethanol. So let's use the same term each time, just so we know.
When you put, what they have to do is they have to add. You have a ratio of fuel to air, 14.7 to 1 is what gasoline does. So, 14.7 parts air to 1 part gas. Oof, you've got a nice stoichiometric, they call it, a
my goodness
ratio of fuel and air, which makes the most power and the most efficiency. If you put a 14.7 to 1 ratio of ethanol, alcohol, biofuel in there, it's gonna be leaner. It's gonna burn leaner. The power is gonna be different. You don't want that. It'll be hotter, so you have to dump more in there. Therefore, your car is gonna get less economy on. So what happens with your check engine light coming on? Typically, if somebody says, well, when I'm running E85, my check engine light comes on. Well, maybe it's too lean because your car can't adjust because it's got a vacuum leak or it's got bad spark plugs or plug wires or something is causing it to run poorly. Oxygen sensors are not telling it when to adjust. Therefore, they have a problem. But this other way around, I'm thinking maybe your car has a slight injector leak or something, your truck. And some of the 6.0s had some injector leaks, fuel pressure regulator leaks. And if they do, it's running too rich. So when you run the ethanol in it, it's running right. But when you run straight gasoline, now it's running rich and you're getting a rich code. So if you scan it when the light's on. And if it says rich, both banks or one bank, you need to repair that. And you're going to get better fuel economy by doing that. You're also going to find that your fuel economy, will maybe be a little better with straight gas than with the ethanol. But the higher octane you're getting with the E85 makes up for a lot of that, because those 6.0s, they like a little more timing, and they can't run that timing with 87 because they have pre-ignition, they detonate, and it turns the timing down and lowers your fuel economy. So what do? Run E30. Find E30 or make your own blend, and remember that E85 in most parts of the country is not 85%. It's about 55%. So blend it accordingly. I want to,
when you say that too, somebody asked me about this once, and I remember it jarring me when you said it. Make your own blend by knowing how much gas you need and then using some from one pump and one from the other.
Right.
Not filling a can going home down in the basement with a Jacob's ladder.
Just figure, that you're not going to be perfect because you don't know. It's up to 85%, which means it could contain more than 55. And in some parts of the country, it does. Well, mainly one. Wichita, Kansas they've got some people there. They're really good on what they have, and they actually have some pumps that are very high on the 85.
70s or above.
And they'll tell you right on the pump. I think they've got one that's 80, and they've got it for the race car drivers around there that want to put, they've got these cars they run on the street, and they need to know how much is going in there so they can run their car program accordingly.
As I sit here and listen to this call, your answer, being impressed completely with the words you just used, the 15 and 14 and newer body style, I did not realize that there was a flex fuel model available yet. I thought they quit that before then.
Not all of them. I think I
don't think
said it was 15, 14 maybe.
He said it was ethanol friendly. I mean, if he's listening, I'm kind of curious. Yellow gas cap and everything right from the factory? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't be able to run the E85 at all in it. But there is a cutoff. You can see, Chris could look up and see when the last flex
and
fuel
part of that was as incentives changed. The manufacturers said,
it's more expensive to build a flex fuel car.
Yep.
Paul says it runs way smoother on the E85 too. You just noticed. You just replied back. Yep, yellow gas cap, Paul says. Thanks,
Okay.
Paul.
Something is off in that engine. It's not running correctly, because if it's turning that check engine light on without it, I think it's running too rich. I think he's probably got a stuck injector.
I was surprised. I recently had cause to put 30 in my vehicle, which I would never normally do because
not on the race car.
Because
in
of
the regular?
federal. It's because it's I'm a rule follower.
That reminds me, I've got your
30
parts in my trunk. I got to go get them.
I put the E30 in, and I knew that the check engine light might come on. And when I pulled out of the gas station, the check engine light came on, and I thought, okay, I need to get that checked because it wouldn't have come on that fast, I'm sure.
I didn't get a text from him.
And so I drove it, and of course I didn't do anything about the check engine light. And a few days later, I went in to actually it was the same day, I was on a road trip, that's what it was. And I pulled into the gas station, I filled my tank, I started my car, and the check engine light came on and went off. And it never went back on. I was shocked at how fast putting the different gasoline in my car. And I was on a road trip, so I was running it down to probably a gallon of gas or less in it. And the check engine light came on and off so fast after I did it, it kind of blew me away. Like, oh, that's that check engine light is either great or too sensitive or something. So now it's been on, and I've just been ignoring it. No, I haven't. I'm kidding. That's a joke.
So if that was the case, that it was a fuel-related issue and you had put 30 in it and that much and it turned the light on, there are some cars that with a richer lean condition, it'll allow it to turn the light on temporarily until the condition's gone and go off, depending on how they set the calibration of the car.
Okay.
Some cars, the light comes on and it just stays on for sometimes 50 drive cycles before it shuts off automatically. You have to physically turn it off. But in your case, let's say your engine, I can imagine your car needs a tune-up. That one's probably never had any spark plugs or anything in it. So, it gets the air
Element
filter
or
checked
Prius?
and stuff.
Prius.
And it's got some miles on it. What, 150 now?
More than that.
More than that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Way more than that.
See, that's just on my last oil change. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I think it's substantially more than that.
We should probably check your
check.
spark plugs because we just haven't.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever done that.
Our
so-
old Prius had 260,000 miles on it. Never had a tune-up. Never
had spark plugs.
Never had spark plugs. Never needed brakes. I mean, that thing was, and it didn't. It went that whole way and didn't end its life due to age. I mean, that was
No, the tranny went out.
yeah. It was so. It
And
was,
if it hadn't,
went a
it
long
would
way.
have kept. It'd probably still be running.
Yeah.
And then I think we pulled the motor and put it in a car. Yeah, we did. We put it in a car. That red one.
I don't
think
remember for
we
sure.
got the engine, I'm pretty sure, and put it in the other Prius that had all the miles on it, if I remember right. But snuck it into Doug's car. He didn't know. But yeah, so that could do it. I mean, if the people, a lot of times people blame fuel for a lot of things, and it turns out to be, no, it's a warning sign because of what your car is doing. It's kind of like when you climb the stairs at work for the first time in a long time, instead of taking the elevator, you're like, oh, I'm having some chest pains. What's going on? Well, next day you don't. You go, oh, I feel pretty good. No, that was a warning sign. That wasn't the stairs that caused your problem.
Yeah,
It
it's
was,
don't take the stairs anymore. Makes my heart pump too hard. You do less. 866-594-4150. Here's one that came in from our YouTube chat. John says 2019 Fusion 2.0 EcoBoost, 50,000 miles, hollow knocking sound at idle, but goes away with a slight load. Have you seen flex plates cracking or breaking so early? 50,000 miles, the hollow knocking at idle.
I don't think we have.
No, I'm just going through my memory bank of things we've run across, and we haven't, which makes me a little bit nervous what he's got going on there. If it's a hollow knocking sound that he thinks comes from the lower end, definitely would be, if it is a flex plate, sometimes you can put your foot on the brake, put it in drive, and load the engine a little bit. And if it goes away quickly, that can be an indication. Now, sometimes it just goes away because you've increased oil pressure, and if there is an internal problem, that'll happen too. But just sometimes a slight load in drive, if it comes and goes, can be an indication of something that is broken or cracked in that flex plate, flywheel, torque converter connection. Bolts coming loose. I mean, that stuff doesn't happen that often. That's what you want it to be so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But there again, some of these newer cars also have balance shafts in them. They're internal in the engine that can cause noises. That turbo, sometimes the injectors, if it's a top end noise, can get kind of noisy. You can hear that, and people are like, "Ooh, what's that?" But if he's saying that hollow knocking noise, I would definitely want to get that inspected to make sure what's going on there, because you don't want to wait. It could be too late already if there's an internal clearance issue of some sort on the crankshaft or whatever it might have to be. That's kind of a throwaway engine nowadays. But that does make me nervous when I hear what he's saying.
866-594-4150. We are live on Saturday morning, October 30th. If you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube right now, we're in studio, and you can call us. We'd love to have you join us this morning. 866-594-4150. Here's a question that came in on the Facebook chat. Mike says, I work for a municipality that runs 2013 to 2020 Chevy Tahoe police units with the 5.3, and these cam and lifter issues are killing us. Any additives or oil recommendations? We're currently using synthetic 5W30 Dexos.
Yeah, that's something that we're seeing a lot of. The cam and lifters, a lot of times the engines have to be replaced when they run too long and metal gets in the system, and there's just no fixing. You start taking these things apart. If there's any metal in there, we just say forget it. There's no, they want you to put an AFM manifold, active fuel management manifold in it, lifters, camshaft, and it just doesn't clean it up if there's metal in there. So, yuck. Yeah, you can use the Dexos is a good oil. You might experiment a little bit and try using a different oil in there. See if it fixes on one vehicle. If it helps, our partner Liquimoly makes a very good 5W30 oil, the 020s, all the different oils that these would take. I've been using their 530 oil in our Camaro, and that's been a great oil. The motor just sounds better when I start it in the mornings and it's cold. A lot of those 6.2s, you'd start them up, and maybe your truck does it, Shannon. When it's real cold, you start it up and you hear that, the forged piston knock that
Just a little bit
in the
every
bottom.
once in a while, yep.
With the liquid moly, I don't hear that at all. With the regular oil, I do. And even when I tried a Mobile One, and the Mobile One did the same thing. So I was like, what's the difference between the Dexos 530 and the Mobile One 530? Because they were similar, but the liquid moly didn't. Now they've got some different additives in that, so that might be something you try and see if that.
The thing that's
your issue.
interesting to me on this question is the fact that he used the range of 13 to 20. In 2015, they switched to the LT series motor,
And we haven't had that issue.
and we haven't seen that problem. So I wonder if you're listening, are you grouping those all because that's just how your mind said the question, or is there specifically instances where you're starting to have 15 to 20s that are having the same issue? I'd like to know about that.
Yeah, is there a disgruntled employee pouring maple syrup in your oil when
But
you're not looking in the background?
It's not that they haven't, and maybe we just haven't experienced it. Just
Yeah.
because we haven't seen it. Here's a fun family story. My dad is the ultimate weather watcher. I mean, we will, until the day, bless his soul, he's gone, we will have the forecast before the news channels ever give it. We will be able to read the clouds and be able to know what direction to be watching for the storm to come from. We've been taught this since we were kids. But if there were a tornado and he didn't see it, it didn't exist. And so that could happen with us too on this show.
I was driving
just because
home.
if we didn't see it and had experience with it, doesn't mean it's not happening.
Right.
Was that a couple years ago? I was driving
it
home.
was
and,
last summer, I think, Russ.
yeah, and so I call Shannon, and I'm like, hey, Shannon, is there a tornado? Because I hear on the radio that a tornado was sighted, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I look up, and I'm just driving on the road, and I'm like, oh, the sky doesn't look too bad. I'm like,
There's a funnel cloud.
there's a tornado, and it's headed right towards here,
Yeah, it
right
was-
here. So I call Shannon. I'm like, Shannon, is there a tornado? He's like, well, Dad didn't say anything. I don't think so.
But he wasn't around.
I've heard there's some around.
So I ran outside the building
right,
to
he
go.
was out of town,
Yeah,
wasn't
he was
he?
out of town. He wasn't here. Once again, it didn't happen because he
Right.
didn't see it. So our building is big enough. I can't.
Oh yeah, you can't see over
I can't
it.
see to the horizon on the west. And so I went through the shop and I got out to the other side and I walked out past our fuel recovery center and I got up on the hillside and wouldn't you know it, here's some funnel clouds dancing in and out of the sky that Russ was seeing from the interstate as he was driving home. There was all kinds of reports on social media and it was pretty close.
Dear Under the Hood Show listeners, don't run outside if anything.
Well, the weather was, but that's the thing. I'm saying the weather was fine. You walked outside and you're like, yeah, it's going to rain.
We should also point out, and this is no joke, if you're listening somewhere else in the United States or the world, Queensland, Australia, good morning.
Yep.
Where we are, you can generally see 30 or 40 miles in every direction,
In the
especially
sky.
from here. Yeah. If you were on top of your building, you could see.
I could see a
anything.
long ways.
Yeah, and you
a
would.
long
Yeah.
ways. And we're kind of in a little bit of a valley.
Yeah.
And I could still see a long ways.
Yeah. So
And it's not unusual either for people in this part of the country to get out and see what's happening outside.
everywhere,
We're
it's
we're
not unusual
running,
anywhere.
We are not running to the bunker around here.
Right. No one does. You ever been on YouTube? Apparently no one takes shelter ever. They just
Anymore.
start recording. Yeah.
The money shot to
Yeah.
put on social media is worth more than their life.
You should get you should build a
Horizon
deck
cam?
up on top.
Observation deck?
And like a crow's nest. Yeah, that's what Doug said. You could just little spiral staircase, you run up there and you can
we used to have one.
you could grill some
We
burgers.
had that staircase on the old building.
Yeah.
Remember we had the tower, the prayer tower?
I love it when they take that video from the trailer park and they're like, hey, look, we got the tornado. Oh, I was safe out here. It was really far away, but check out this blade of grass. It went right through the side of my trailer.
I don't know why you had to use
look
that
at it,
accent.
you go
kinda-
right through the side
you
of
did
you.
some major stereotyping on that
You
whole
could just
thing.
use his accent. He just did that exact thing. You don't have to use this.
Well, that's what they
accent.
sound like when they're in the videos.
And then
I'm
on
with
their
you.
national
It's the
radio
same
show,
guy on every
they
video.
sound like him.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Don't you know a funnel cloud was coming
So,
down the road?
I'm going to go back to where this started. On the 15 to 20 Tahoe or Suburban or whatever brand Yukon, Silverado pickup, Sierra 1500, we haven't seen as many problems in those engines as we did on that previous generation. Unless, no, I know better than this. I was wondering, sometimes they'll run the older version of an engine in some of the commercial and fleet vehicles out a few extra years, but no, when they went to that new style in 15, they switched everything.
866-594-4150. Yeah, we are here on a Saturday morning. It's October 30th as we're in here live if you're watching on the YouTube feed or the Facebook feed, and we're taking your calls. 866-594-4150.
So if it's the YouTube feed, you can say it that way, but you don't say the YouTube.
Right. We're on YouTube. If you go to our
We're
YouTube
not on the
feed.
YouTube.
Right.
We're talking about the YouTube feed.
Right. You can watch it on the
big
YouTube
difference.
feed. Yeah, for sure.
Should we say and we're live on Facebook, or should we say we're live on Meta?
No, I think we can still
be-
say Facebook.
That's going to be so awful. We're just going to stick with Facebook, right?
Well, it'll be Facebook's Facebook. The only thing they changed was their corporate name.
Oh, they're not changing.
Like you don't
okay,
use
okay.
Alphabet, do you? You Alphabet
A, B, C,
For Google?
D.
Alphabet owns Google.
They'd make a great soup.
So, but we don't ever talk about Alphabet. The company that is the biggest company is Alphabet, not Google. That's just one of their.
I'm kind of concerned about the whole Meta thing where they're going to take over and force us to do virtual reality. I'm concerned. I think that they are going to try to create a world that they want us to exist in,
Of course.
Yeah, for sure.
and I don't like that.
We're already in the
You're in it,
Matrix.
yeah.
We are living in the Matrix right now. You just don't know it.
I don't. Sorry, hold on a second here. You're on Facebook right now and YouTube, and the podcast and your business is all internet, all of it.
A chunk of it.
Yeah, I mean the working
Yeah.
parts of the data.
But that's not virtual. It's actually happening.
yeah, no. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's tangible. I can touch all of it.
You think?
I'm involved in all of it.
Keanu Reeves could touch everything too, and he was in a little pod,
Oh,
right?
yeah. You can touch
I never liked the Matrix.
So the deposit bag, that you bring to the bank every night.
No, we don't even hardly do that anymore.
See, it's even the money you get and use it's all fake. We're in the meta. It's all. This is nothing.
Have you
We're
made
in the
this
meta.
argument before?
Yeah. It's all, and it's fine.
Or are you just throwing this out now?
No, it's fine. It's everybody's in, and it's fine. You're
don't know.
just you're.
I
in.
just still don't want to be in
If
it.
that's the case,
Yeah,
then
that's
I
true.
think of a caller coming in. It'll come in right now. I'm thinking of one right now. The phone's ringing. Mm-hmm. A caller's coming in.
Oh, you know what? I bet you. I'm thinking that maybe it's that John that had the hollow knocking sound.
866-594-4150. John, you're on the Under the Hood show. Are you calling about your Fusion?
I am.
Okay, let's get to the bottom of this.
Well, he's wondering if he should get to the bottom of
Yeah.
it for sure.
We got a lot of confusion around here. So
Oh wow, you can tell it's the morning. We're trying way too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
So I heard we stuck a stethoscope to the turbo because we thought it might have been the turbo, and we'll replace the turbo. Wasn't the turbo? Unfortunately, spent $1,000 bill on that.
Eek.
And then, so I started reading some forums and looking at technical manuals, and they were thinking that it was the flex plate. So I'm kind of looking into that, how I can check the flex plate. So at idle, it knocks. It's a really light, hollow knock. But as soon as I increase the idle speed at all, it goes away. It doesn't have to be in drive, but just increasing the load on the motor, that goes away.
How much do you have to move the
You're making-
RPMs? How much do you have to move the RPMs to get it to go away?
Very little.
Just basically come
100,
off
200 RPM.
come off idle is about all you got to do. What is
Yes.
the oil pressure showing on that car? Has anybody put a manual gauge on it or looked on the scanner to see what the oil pressure is actually at?
No, not oil pressure, no.
Well, I do kind of wonder if the idle is set right, what that oil pressure is. There should be ample volume and pressure of oil for a 50,000 mile vehicle if it's been normally used at idle. But we have seen some vehicles where the idle is down a little bit, but I'm still worried about what's going on the lower end of that engine with the crankshaft and the end play and all that fun stuff. The thrust.
Chris has got my microphone off over there.
That, and if I accelerate or in idle, if I rev it up a little bit and then it decelerates, you can hear rattling. So it vibrates a little bit. But driving the car, it's smooth. Just normal driving, it runs like a kid. First.
One of the things we would do would be to check that end play, like Shannon said. I would look at the front of the crankshaft and maybe even get yourself a piece of chalk and just hold it on the front by that near that balancer and the frame rail, just steady, and then accelerate a little bit, let off, and see if it moves, if that crank is walking back and forth. Because if the thrust bearing is worn out in that engine, it can kind of walk back and forth and tuk, 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 you know, make a little noise. But that would go away when there's any load on it, when it's in gear and things like that. That's a possibility. That's one thing you could look at. Now, another thing completely off the chart compared to that is that we had a Kia in the other day, and that car had one motor mount that was failing on the transmission end of it. And that motor mount had sagged just enough that there's only about maybe a little more than 3/16 inch of clearance between the metal of the mount and the side. So when it started to sag, it would touch at idle. It had just enough vibration that it would tick, 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 and make this clunk that sounded like it was coming from under the driver's feet area. And you'd give it any gas at all, and it would go away. And when we finally got it figured out, it was this engine mount. So what we did is we were hanging onto the engine. We were pushing on it while it was sitting there idling and knocking, and we could push on it. It would quit. We'd let go. It would start again, and we thought for sure it was inside the engine. Turned out to be the engine mount. So
that's unusual for a Hyundai Kia.
Yeah, and they just don't go out. And I thought when we found that,
it's unusual that it wasn't a bad motor.
Right, exactly. But this was an older one. So this is a Kia from even though the miles were different. This was we were talking about back in and this is a listener that listens to us all the time.
07, 08, 6, 5, 4.
Yeah, they just it was worn out, so we got a new one from O'Reilly Auto Parts, and they had that thing, which was, boy, I mean, I thought for sure we were never going to find that
a new
mount.
Kia.
No, a new mount.
Oh, okay.
They should just keep new Kias in stock there, shouldn't they? Because they
exchange them.
They've a lot of engine failures.
So this car, though, have you owned this car since it was new?
No, I bought it with 30,000 miles on it.
And has it done this for just recently started, or is it done it the whole time you've owned it?
No, just recently in the last 2-3 weeks. So it's actually the kid's car. He's been driving it to and from school lightly. Use it, but just kind of concerned.
If you take without giving it any gas and you just drop it into drive, does the noise go away?
No, it'll do it at idle.
In drive.
In drive.
And if you load the brake a little bit and just give it just a little bit of gas, then it goes away.
Yep.
Russ, would he be able to see enough from the inspection cover? Is there any clearance to look in there to look at that flex plate on that car? I'm just trying to think how that's put together.
I think the only way you can see in there is to remove the starter and look in there with a flashlight or a camera as you're turning it around by hand.
To see if there's a crack up near the hub of the flex plate or something like that. Because that definitely 100% could make that noise you're describing. And it would go away.
So I was watching a YouTube video, and the guy removed the starter, and he was able to move the flex plate a little bit. Now, if it's just cracked, will that still move, or will it have to be broken for that to flex and move as much as he was?
It would have to be broken to move that much. But you know what the other thing is? This is a 19 Fusion, Shannon. Transmission issues? What's the chance that before this guy owned it, that trans has been removed and replaced already or repaired? that could have happened. And if it did, they might have left the torque converter bolts loose. They could be a little bit work their way
That's
loose.
interesting.
And that could have that knock too, because a lot of these cars had that transmission out before 30,000 miles.
That's an interesting thought. Maybe pull a Carfax on it to see if it perchance registered a warranty replacement or something like that. That's an interesting thought.
Okay.
This one got super interesting, by the way. John, your message on Facebook or YouTube, and now this one got interesting, I think.
Well,
I don't know if we solved it, but man, I'm dying to know
but
now.
The only reason that I fight a little bit harder is it's fairly unusual to have a lower end knock on that engine.
Yeah.
As far as I know, there again, I haven't seen that in a large quantity of stuff. People haven't talked about it, but there again, just because it hasn't been happening in our world.
I've driven the car with the crank bearing, the rods going out, and I've thrown a piston through the oil pan before, so it's not that sort of knock. It's a little lighter. It's not so, I don't know.
Well, a flywheel.
You know what I'm saying?
The flywheel sound. Okay, what can I relate it to? I'm usually good at relating that to. A flywheel would sound more like if you took a ballpoint pen and you tapped it on your screen door, your aluminum screen door. Just it would sound like, or on this computer like this. Maybe I can make. I don't know if you can hear that,
Yeah,
but
that's good.
that's me tapping on the computer
And
monitor.
what was
here.
that? What does that sound like?
That's more like a flywheel. A rod knock is more like that'd be a main knock.
Okay.
Tapping on hard, solid
Yep.
oak desktop. Dook, 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 dook. That'd be more like a main knock. And a rod's got a little bit of that high pitch too. You can tell the difference. So if you've driven a car with a rod going out and you ended up with a piston in the oil pan,
That was great.
then you know the difference.
That was a great audio clue. All of that. That was good.
Yeah.
And he was knocking on this wonderful desk made by Kitchens and Windows Unlimited.
This is solid.
This thing is a beast.
Kitchen Windows
Unlimited.
Just look what you can. No, that's not. Is it?
All right. So does that help you out there, John?
It does. I got a few things to look at. So I don't know if this other clue maybe, which, again, if I rev it up and then let off the accelerator, it sounds like if you spin something really fast and there's like a bearing going out, or it vibrates like a fan if you spun it way too hard, and then it rattles a little bit like it's off balance. Does that make sense?
And you replace the turbo, so we're eliminating wastegate there, because I know there's listeners going, well, it's just his wastegate. Well, he put a brand new turbo on it already, swapped it out. So
that's what I thought. It might have been the turbo fan in there, or the wastegate. I thought
and
it
no
might have been
shields.
that. That's when
you don't have a shield rattling, right? You've checked all that, your exhaust shields and stuff. You don't have one that's buzzing. Oh, hey, catalytic converter. I wonder if you've got a brick coming loose in the catalytic converter, and that might be rattling. Bang on the exhaust, not with a hammer or anything. Just when it's cold, take your hand and smack the exhaust right under the catalytic converter area, and see if you hear that rattle. Because we've put a couple converters on those cars now that I'm thinking about it, because they had a rattle in them. The brick would break loose inside the converter, and tuk 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 tuk. It's a weird sound compared to an engine knock.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And when you give it gas and decelerate, changes the pressure. Still blowing air through, but the pressure's changing.
And you definitely feel like this is coming from the lower part of the engine car.
yes.
Okay.
Well, the converter would be in the lower part.
No, I'm just say otherwise the other things you start putting on the list would be cam phasers and things like that, but that's higher noises. They're different than that.
John, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Let us know how that works out. I have a question for everyone else. When you say John could check the Carfax report
Which one?
Well, that's my question. If he checks the Carfax, how does he do that? Does he go online? Does he bring it to his shop? What are we talking about here?
Well, there's different ways to do it. Now, if you were a customer of Russ's at the shop and you had a history with us, they're able to go into the shop with the VIN number that's in the system and use the portion of their paid-for software, which is called, what do they call it?
$1,000 a month.
Is that what they call it? Oh.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
Is that how much it costs?
It's part of the Mitchell system.
Yeah, but they call it shop. It's got a different name than Carfax.
Well, there's Mitchell Manager, and then there is Carfax shop.
That's
It's actually
what I was trying to get
Carfax
to, right
shop.
there, Carfax shop. And so as part of the benefits of that system that you pay quite a bit of money for, they can see work that's been done. If it's been done at another shop that uses a electronic system that has a licensing agreement with Carfax,
Warranty?
most.
Okay. I mean,
There again, there is
because on
whole-
this one, we're trying to find out if
The
John's
only
had
reason
it.
I bring this up, there's holes in this system.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because if
but there's a
you
lot of stuff on there.
if you do self oil changes, never going to register on a Carfax. If you had a buddy that was a dealership mechanic and you traded him sheetrock work for putting a tranny in your car and you did it in the garage, never going to
Can
show.
you submit that stuff?
Never going to show.
Or
I-
can
I don't know how
Russ submit it on my car and
I
say
don't know how you
customer?
do it.
Yeah, I don't
I
either.
don't think. I think the reason is that why you can't do it is so that you don't falsify records.
Oh,
because
yeah.
what
Well,
would
it's
be
a,
to
we just know
Oh,
that
yeah, good
we
point.
know it's a hard process to change something. If a accident record gets on a car by accident that's not supposed to be there,
yeah.
Yeah, no, of course that's why you
So
can't
what
do
would
it.
prevent me from saying, "Oh
I change
yeah,
the oil
I
every
changed the
3,000
oil
miles."
every
Yeah.
1,000 miles"?
so
I get
this thing is hardwired to Carfax or another competitive product, but it's Carfax is the name brand. They are the most prevalent in the market. They're hardwired to it. So as soon as he does a transmission replacement, customer pays for it, saves the ticket, archives it, it's gone. It's fired off to the Carfax database.
So John, well, how does John get this Carfax?
He's going to
report?
go online to Carfax.com, or if he has a relationship with a shop,
Okay.
and he can go in and say, hey, I've got this vehicle. Let's check it, see. And you're looking for that trail, what's been done to it. Has it had a transmission put under warranty? Has it been in for a cam phaser replacement? What's the history of the oil changes? But that's the stuff you look for in the Carfax report. I'm not interested by all their little alarm bells and symbols and the fox looking at me creepy when I look at the report.
This car indicates there are 3 events that have happened, and you're like, "What are the events?"
That's the scariest thing in the
Title
world.
issued, car sold.
Yeah, and so you really just I like to just read through line by line the chronological life of the car. I just go through there and say, bought new in here. Yep, they had it for about 10,000 miles. Oil got changed, went to here. Oil got changed. Oh, recall campaign. Oh, this has already had the new cam phasers put in it. That's cool. That was done at 50,000 miles. Car's got 70,000 miles. Don't have to worry about that. Oil was changed. Car resold and registered in Kentucky. Well, that's weird. Why did it go to Kentucky? It was just in Montana.
Yeah, and then back again.
And then now it's back
sometimes.
in Montana again. What happened there? So that makes you ask questions. So you learn from that report, and you can ask good questions. So much of it is just 100% normal. Car bought new in Florida, used in a rental fleet, came to the Midwest.
And sometimes that rental, maybe it was bought in Florida, used in the rental fleet in Florida, but the corporation changed its headquarters, so now it's titled in Kentucky and then back in Florida again. So it may never last.
Yeah, so you just start looking at all that stuff to see what the history is. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? It would make sense for a car that was in the southeast to be owned by a rental car, go to a big auction. It would show a sale at an auction house, and it ends up in the Midwest for sale on a used car lot. That wouldn't be unusual.
So when I go to, in this case, we're using Carfax as just there are other services, but like you said, it's the biggest. So I go there.
They
I
are
put
the
in-
most connected as far as I know.
I put in my VIN, and then it lets me. I can either buy one report for X amount of dollars, 2 reports for a little bit less each.
Yeah.
And that report should have all of the information that exists in. There's not like a level where he would get a different.
I believe if you buy the basic report on Carfax, you're going to get that information that you need.
And there's only I'm there now. It looks like there's only one report that I can buy by typing it in here.
Okay,
on
they
the-
used to have a couple different versions I thought you could buy. So I just haven't bought one for a while because we're able to use the
Sure.
Are you saying you use me for automotive
I've used
information?
you before on that,
Heck
yes. But we also have a connection with another supplier that we're able to get reports at a reduced price when we want the full report.
Okay.
Because we're part of a bigger group, and it just one of the things that's
So
available.
now it does say right on there, every vehicle history report checks for data, service history, types of use, ownership history. So I think there's just, at least for me, when I go to the website, there's just the one report that I can
But
get.
if there was a really good repair shop that used a system that is not licensed with Carfax, you'd never see those repairs on a Carfax.
Right.
There's nobody that says, well, I fixed the car today, I got to send that to Carfax. No, if this didn't happen automatically, it would never be there. because it is not at all on the mind of Russ and his team when they're fixing a car that,
Sure.
boy, I got to get this to Carfax. It would, am I fair, Russ? It would never happen if you had to do it manually.
No, I wouldn't put it in there.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Iowa and talk to Paul. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Paul, what can we do for you?
Oh, I got a couple F-150 EcoBoost pickups. And servicing them gets to be a pain in the butt without a transmission dipstick tube.
Don't you love it? We love Ford and taking away the tube, and the same thing with the Chryslers. What are you people thinking?
Well, my first one I've changed a couple times now. I've got 280,000 miles on it, or getting close to 290. I keep thinking somebody has to come up with an aftermarket tube.
Yeah, you had to go in that little port they've got on the top. I haven't seen one yet. But, so how we do it is we use a transmission flush machine, which only puts in what it takes out or only takes out what it puts in, if that makes sense. So we hook it up, and if 16 quarts go in, 16 quarts come out. So we don't have, I mean, we do check the level on every one by pulling that bolt out of the bottom with it running, on the hoisting gear, but it's a lot harder to do at home. But if you're taking the pan off, I saw one guy, I was watching YouTube, and he says, I never figured out this thing where you pull the bolt out. So he took the pan off, and he had a bucket that measured his fluid. He took the pan off, dumped it in there, and it had just on the side, it said quarts. So he looked at it and says, okay, I've got
A big graduated cylinder?
I've got 6.5. Well, it was like a oil drain bucket, but it said 6.5 quarts. So he says, okay, I'm going to pour 6.5 quarts in. And it worked. And he says, I had the dealership check it once after I got done, and then I figured it was right because it worked. Well, if you get that much out, you know how much goes in. And it should be almost exactly the same amount every time. If the car's been sitting like overnight or for a couple hours and you remove the pan and you get 5 quarts out of it, or if it's overnight and you get 6 quarts out of it, it should be almost exactly the same every time, and then you change it. But now, back to my question. It just popped into my head like a light bulb, like that little cartoon. Ding. You've changed. How many miles are on these F-150s with EcoBoost?
Well, I've got one that just hit 100,000. This is going to be the first time. But my other one, my 2011, has almost 290,000 on it now.
Awesome.
Have you done any major repairs to the engine, like timing chains or turbos?
No, it's had neither, just basic brakes and.
What's the use of the truck? How's that truck used?
I pull a car trailer around quite a bit and pick up a lot of automobiles here and there.
This one has the factory.
I would say half of its life.
And it's got the factory
it's a
towing
max tow
package. Yep. There you go. Okay. So this.
We're starting to find a common theme here, aren't we, Russ?
Yeah, we have raved about EcoBoost, and we've also bashed them in different situations. But we have been finding out over about the last 6 to 8 months, we've had a lot of listeners calling, raving about them. It used to be they'd call and say, "Oh, these things are junk. The mileage isn't great when I'm towing, and this and that." And then they've blown up, and they all had a common theme. They were all the higher geared, plain tow rating trucks. But the ones with the low gears and the max tow packages, 11 and newer, they're saying, oh man, I pull hay wagons with this and I just rot on this thing, keep the oil change, and I haven't replaced it.
That one guy said he was racing other trucks up and down the mountains.
Yeah. So, and I've got an in-law that has one, and I said, hey, that sounds like a 6-cylinder. You got an EcoBoost in that thing? I said, yeah. I'm like, how many miles you got? And it's well over 200. He goes, I should upgrade it and maybe even downgrade and go older now because I can't find a newer truck. But he goes, this old girl just keeps on running. She's got, 280 or 70,000 miles. I'm like, well, what do you pull with it? I pull the hay wagons up and down the road. They're about 15,000 pounds, which I know is overloaded because it's only rated at like 11. And I was like,
but I'm just going over there.
I'm just going over there. I'm going slow.
And you haven't blown it up. So I think that's the thing there. If you're going to own one of these trucks, you better be one of these with the tow package. Well, that's great. That just puts a little notch in Ford's belt when they have these lasting like that.
Paul, thanks very much for the call.
And no, we don't know of a dipstick.
Yeah.
There's not one you can put on like the
Like the Caravan where you
Yeah.
just stick it. No, they do have a little tube. It's about 2 inches long. That's just to the right side. We've working on an Expedition yesterday with the same type of trans, and that's just the fill, the charge port. We actually have an adapter, that quick connector that clips on there to fill it, but they fill it by weight or quarts, liters at the factory. So they know exactly. They don't check the fluid level at the factory when they fill it. They know exactly how many drops it takes. So you could do the same thing if you drained it. You just got to be careful that you don't get it, drain it at a different time, because if it sits 2 hours, it's going to be different than if it sits 10 hours or if it's hot or cold. I never have been a big fan of that. Pull that out. They did that going back years ago when the Mountaineers and stuff, when they came out with that 5-speed. The Mountaineer, Explorer.
Sounds fun.
Different things. They've got all sorts of changes as they've gone through the years with different vehicles. And then the BMW, I think, and the Mercedes has got to be the worst, with no way to check it other than the electronic system, that if it's working.
866-594-4150. We got a salute from Portugal. Hey, thanks for tuning in this afternoon for you. Not us. It's our morning. We're in
Their
the morning.
afternoon.
Yeah. Saturday, October 30th. We'd love to have you join us. 866-594-4150. Let's go and talk to Jane in North Dakota. Jane, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, I have a 2010 Subaru Tribeca, and we owned it for only 400 miles, and the battery went dead. Changed the battery, the car wouldn't go anywhere. I called, we had moved from where we originally bought it, but I called the original Subaru dealership back, and they said it was probably a throttle body that needed to be cleaned and reset. So we took it to our local Subaru dealership, and they wanted to charge us a couple $100 because they didn't think that was the problem. We finally convinced them that's what we want done. They took care of it, and now I only go about 100 miles, and I use a whole tank of gas. My car just isn't driving properly. Any suggestions?
That should have a check engine light on if it's using that much fuel in that short.
Yeah, does it?
I mean, you're putting that much in the tank,
No.
right?
Correct.
Yeah, so because I was thinking, if the gauge is off, it could be sewing.
Yeah,
into
that's
when
so
if you're
excessive.
only
You would
putting
know.
6 in there. Yeah, you'll know if
You're
you're
going to
putting
know. Oh, got to stop again.
12 gallons every time.
Oh, you're pouring that much gas through there is not good for the engine either.
No, it is definitely got it. So yeah, it's out of warranty. Somebody's going to have to put a scanner on it and read the fuel trims and see what's going on. It's got to be running rich to run that much fuel through there. But boy,
Let's back this thing up a little bit, Russ. So you drove the car from where'd you live before?
Well, it's from South Dakota.
Okay. So you just moved basically in the upper Midwest here. So you drove the car up there, and you had just bought the car, correct?
Correct.
400 miles on it.
Put about 400. Correct.
Yep. So you get to North Dakota, you park the car, battery goes dead, correct?
Well, we drove about 400 miles with it.
Right. No, but when you parked it, though, then the
From
battery was dead
home.
and never got to start it again without putting a different battery in it or jump starting it, or what'd you do?
New battery.
Never jump started it.
No.
Okay. Just checking on that. Maybe we could have something go weird on a jump start. I was going to rule that out. So you got a new battery in there, high quality battery. Car starts right up after that.
It did.
Okay. Car starts right up. Car's running, but you can't go anywhere. That was your first symptom? You said.
Correct.
Russ,
we were told to disconnect the battery, wait for about 15, 20 minutes, reconnect the battery, and that should reset the idle, and keep it running for about 20 minutes, is what they told us. We did that. It didn't change. We couldn't even get it out of the driveway. It was, losing fuel, bucking, and whatnot. Had to have it towed to the dealership to have a the throttle body cleaned and reset, and it has not driven properly since. It's not. It's using so much fuel, and it's still not driving right. As soon as you put it in reverse, it just wants to, take off on you. You put it in drive, and I'm idling about, with my foot off the accelerator, about 25 to close to 30 miles an hour.
It's not set right. I was just thinking about this. So when we
So
change
the
batteries,
idle is at 30 miles an hour?
yeah, that's because the throttle position sensor is probably, the voltage is probably higher than it's supposed to be, and that will cause it to use more fuel and not turn the check engine light on because it thinks it needs more fuel delivery at that. Does that make sense, Shannon?
It does.
So when we change batteries in a lot of Volkswagens, Audis, Subarus, some Nissans, we have to pull our scanner out and relearn the throttle body. Sometimes we'll clean them, but a lot of times we just relearn them because we want to relearn it at the position they're in with whatever gunk is in there. But typically they're standard pretty clean. But it may need. I would try, if it was my own shop, I'd try to relearn it again. I would plug the scanner in and try to relearn it. But since you had this done, you paid for it to be done at a dealership, I would say, and they're far away, I would say, hey, I had you guys reset this, and ever since.
Well, no, I think that dealer's close by, Russ. That dealer's where they're at.
Far away from us.
Yeah, exactly. I got
so
you.
we're out of the woods. I would say, hey, you know what? I talked to this national radio show, and they have their own shop. They've been doing this for 32 years, and they see this a lot in their own shop. Can you guys just try to relearn my idle again, because
entertain
you relearned
me.
it.
Do this again, please.
And it went crazy, because for me, this would literally take me 5 minutes to plug my scanner in and do it, and I'm going to do it for a customer service just to make you feel good at the very very least, because if it fixes it, that's awesome, and you're going to say, hey, they really took care of me. And if it doesn't fix it, well, at least you trust them a little more now because they tried to fix it, and they can do more work.
And if she brought this into you, and she told you exactly what the symptoms are now, you hooking up a scanner to it to see what's going on, it would be, even if it weren't just relearning the throttle body, something's going on.
If I plug it in and I see that the throttle voltage is 1.5 volts and it's supposed to be 0.62, which is about accurate on that car, I know there's a problem, and I'm going to say, oh, okay, well, the throttle's not stuck. Let me hit this relearn button again and see if that fixes it.
Does that help you out there, Jane?
It does, but I'm trying to write this information down. What should the voltage be?
Well, on most cars, they're all different.
Yeah,
different
that's not going to help you in this situation.
Yeah. You would have to be reading data on a scanner. So if you had one of those little Bluetooth scanners plugged in that's less than $100 at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store, and you were reading the data, the vehicle data should be under a volt on pretty much everything.
Wherever she brings it with the scan tool, they'll be able to. They'll be able to read it.
And they'll have the specs of what it's supposed to be too. But if you've got a throttle, most throttles are 0 to 5 volts, and if you've got one that's anything over a volt, it's typically going to tell me this car is going to be idling high. Without the engine started, I can look at it and say it's going to idle high.
Jane, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. The good news is when it's got problems enough that it's going to be noticeable. You're not going to have to leave it at the shop for a week. You're not going to have to, it's happening, so they'll see it when they hook up to it.
Exactly.
It depends on the time they have to work on it and all that stuff too, because maybe they don't have time to scan it real quick and do that. I don't know.
866-594-4150. Here's a question that came in from the chat. I have a 2007 Dodge Nitro 4-wheel drive.
Ooh.
3.7-liter engine. Should I be nervous about that?
Nitro.
It's
It
an
ends
07.
in 7. It's a Chrysler, yes.
Low mileage, 65,000 miles. It runs great. A mechanic buddy of mine told me that at about 100,000 miles, I should find someone to buy it from me.
Like a salvage yard, a local salvage yard, auto recycler.
That's a great question, Charles.
They don't all die.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you've got another car,
Yeah, no, he's right.
and you don't need this one,
He's right.
or you're ready, you've got the funds to buy that other car, get rid of it now because it's so appealing. It's a low mileage car. They're worth so much right now. And truthfully, if it's been taken care of, this thing some of them were junk early. Some of them did last a long. We saw a couple with 140,000.
I've dismantled them with 200,000, 170,000.
Boy, they're clunky though, aren't they? The
they're-
suspension, clunk,
yeah,
clunk, clunk.
so-
But the engines are good.
A well cared for low mileage vehicle like that is going to last a pretty good long time. But there definitely are some things that can develop as it gets over 100,000 miles that it can be expensive, and the value of the car does not keep up with the value of the repairs.
I'm gonna answer this one. Yes, Charles, and do it sooner, like Russ said. That vehicle is worth more now than it has ever been worth in the history of the world. I mean, used car prices, they've never been like this, ever, have they?
No, it's pretty historic.
Yeah, so
what things are happening.
And your buddy has a good point. We don't know if that would be true of your vehicle, but that's a fair assessment generalization.
And you could feel better about selling it at lower mileage, so if something did happen to the next owner, you don't feel quite so bad.
That's absolutely true. That always
the longer
works
you wait,
mm-hmm.
the more likely you feel bad that something happened sooner to someone.
That's right. Because if let's say the magic number was 100,000 and you sold it now, well, then they got a couple years to use it and feel like it's not your fault.
Yeah.
I got a great email that came in this morning from a person listening on podcast, and I'll just read some of it here because we're kind of in time here. But so Tim writes in from Davenport, Iowa, and he says, I listen to your podcast because it allows me to listen remotely while trucking the roads of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa with feed mill deliveries during the work week. And he says, please voice your insights and opinions on the following. As Nordstrom's not only repairs and does a national radio show, but also recycles cars, I threw in the radio show part, do you anticipate a time soon when drive batteries for electric vehicles containing valuable lithium and other components in these batteries will be chopped out of wrecks and then flatbedded to a battery recycling plant? And two, in the same question, do you have reservations about the safety of the disassembler person, given any battery will have a residual charge still capable of an abundant delivery of amps? Is this an auto recycling industry group or manufacturers themselves already offering training on how to properly tear out and transport drive batteries?
I think I can answer this question.
And I can definitely jump in on this question, and I'd like to hear what Chris has to say.
I'm going to go with the second question first. Is there a way to do it? Yes, right? There's already... If you're working with it, like even if you have one in your shop, Russ, if one came in and you'd never done it, there are you can go find the procedures to do it safely. And I think I've even seen like on some of I remember looking at the Prius when we first got it, there are stickers and things on it that the first one we had stickers on it with procedures and ways to find the correct procedure.
Correct.
And this first part is, yes. Absolutely, there will be. I don't know if there is now.
There are companies already working on the harvesting of the rare earth metals from these batteries, from the drive motors.
But they're not coming to your place to get the catalytic converter. Don't fall for that. They're coming knocking on the door. Hey, I'm here to get your...
So there will be a point where the cobalt, the lithium, the rhodium, you name it, is going to be
batteries.
Is going to be harvested from these things. There's companies already doing prototypes to do it. As far as the safety portion of it, it is dangerous, especially if a car is wrecked and things are compromised. But there are numerous resources out there. Most all the manufacturers have a guide they've put out. The Toyota was one of the first ones out there. Honda had things out there right away for safe disposal of their batteries. The markets for those are a whole different story yet. They're still developing. Mm-hmm. That's a big challenge.
You can bet somebody's going to come knocking on our door going, I need to buy, or now they say, we need to buy your muffler cans. And I'm like, we don't have any catalytic converters. We send them all to Nordstrom's Auto Recycling. They're going to be knocking on our door going, oh, you sell me your battery cores,
And that scares me, how they're going to be handling it.
They're going to be piled in the back of a van that's squatting down the road.
But I really want to get to this point. ARA, the Automotive Recyclers Association, I'm the chairman for our National Trade Association's certification committee.
Humble brag?
It was. Mm-hmm. We have been doing it for a lot of years, since 2004.
Just means he's qualified to talk on this subject.
Sure.
we have been under the direction of our current volunteer president, Scott Robertson Jr. from Boston area.
Boston.
And we've been
Is
working.
that the guy you're not a fan of? Is that the one
No,
you told?
no. This guy and I are very, very good
I
friends.
apologize. I was a joke.
I've wrestled this guy.
It got weird.
I got lost. I got beat bad. Tied up like a pretzel. He's a former Marine, I think.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm not. Very clearly a difference on that when that happened. But we've started and are successfully in the process of implementing a electronic record-based certification program. We have the certified auto recycler program, but we added an electric vehicle recycler portion to it.
Okay.
I helped author, with the help of the committee, a high-voltage vehicle dismantling protocol. The HVVDP is something that is out there using resources that we were able to find from a lot of different places, talking to a lot of different people, and put together a procedure that should be used by a professional automotive recycler to properly handle high-voltage vehicles, whether that be a full electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle. There is lots and lots of hours put into creating this protocol, and then now being able to align it with our certification program. And you can find a lot of that information, if you're curious, at aracertification.com. aracertification.com, and that'll link you to. So if you're out there listening and you're a recycler, you should join our National Trade Association, and you should be involved with this program, because our goal is to get enough people involved to show the auto manufacturers that, hey, here's a resource that'll work. We can take care of your vehicles for you. If you want this stuff back, we'll help recycle it and get it back to you. But what we don't want is what's happened in the past is a lot of times the auto manufacturers have put something into a vehicle. An example would be a mercury-laden convenience light switch that was under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
And they fought and fought and fought, saying, oh, no, you figure out how to get rid of them, basically. I mean, I don't mean this in a mean way, but they were more than willing to say that wasn't their problem, the disposal of these, when the mercury started showing up coming out of the smokestacks of the shredder plants that were recycling the cars. But with some back and forth and lobbying and things like that, eventually the manufacturers were willing to pay a small bounty to help recover these things from the cars and get them back to a safe environment. I can imagine cooperation with an auto manufacturer, if you're properly certified and know how to do the proper procedures, to harvest these drive batteries, high voltage DC batteries, harvest them for repurposing, which is a big
For sure.
market,
Yeah.
and harvest them, if they can't be repurposed, harvest them for the rare earth materials in a safe way that can be used to make new products, because they're going to need that. They're not going to be able to harvest quickly enough the cobalt and the other things that they need to make all the batteries for what our world's trying to do. Recycling is going to have to play a part. It always does. It's never talked about enough, but it's going to have to play a part.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us. We're here on a Saturday morning, October 30th. We'd love to hear from you right now. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Rick. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Rick, what can we do for you?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, say I've got a 2020 Toyota Camry, and I had a noise. It's like a humming noise after the engine's been shut off. The car was in the garage. I come out in the garage and I hear this and it's coming from the back, but it almost sounds like it's from the brake area on the driver's side. So I'm wondering if you guys have run across anything like this.
One thing
Pretty
I'm
new
wondering.
car. It's only got 5,000.
Yeah, one thing I'm wondering, and this is a straight Camry, not a hybrid or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Most of the cars nowadays are using electric parking brake actuators. Do you set your parking brake when you park the car or not?
No.
Okay. That would be one thing I'd be wondering about. If there's something wrong with one of them calipers in the back where the electric solenoid would normally be at for locking the caliper for your parking brake. But there are also cars that will process after the car shut off. How long is this, you think?
The noise you mean?
How long
or-
after you've shut the car off?
Well, probably 5-6 hours. I just happened to come in the garage and I hear this humming noise, and
Not
that's
right.
when and it's happened twice. And
That could be the parking brake. It's the only thing down by a wheel on that car.
One of the things I'm going to tell you to do, one of the new cars we just got, we had to do this. You leave the key fob in the car, in the garage.
No, this is actually it's got a key.
Okay, well then throw that out, because we have one that
Don't throw your key out.
No, we have a car that we had to take the key fob out of the car and keep it in the house, and we normally don't do that because the car would keep waking up every time we walked by it.
What about What about like a fuel pump, like the evap system running? And...
Not 5 or 6 hours later.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, that shouldn't happen. Russ, what else could it be? 5 or 6 hours later, what else could it be? I'm not sure. I'm just not sure what it could be that it would be that much later after the car shuts off. It's something is trying to activate, and in the back of the car, the only things back there that could be power related are the emergency brake calipers, the solenoid on the calipers, or the fuel pump in the back. What else is back there that could make noise, Russ?
Well, like Chris said, there is an evap canister back there with a solenoid on it. There is a electric motor for the parking brake. There's a fuel pump. That's it. That's all that's in the back of that car. Doesn't have a power antenna. Boy, years ago we would have said, that's probably your power antenna.
Is your Camry like an XLE absolutely loaded model?
No.
Okay.
The LE model.
So there's no
I did
load leveling suspension or anything like that?
No. I started the car up when I heard it, and then shut it off again, and then there's no noise. Not moving it or anything. Just started it up and shut it back off again. And I did unscrew the gas cap, thinking there's pressure in there that's creating a noise or something.
Well, if it was a fuel pump and you unscrewed that gas cap and put your ear down to it, you'd hear it. I mean, that would be a very distinguishable noise coming from the hollowness of working inside that tank. But that would be extremely unusual if that thing was cycling a fuel pump 5 or 6 hours later. There's definitely something wrong if that was the case.
Running the battery dead for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the brakes will run the battery dead.
I did just look it up. Because I have. We should if you're. Well, I suppose you're probably watching on the Saturday morning. I did just look it up. I Googled it, and there is a thread here on the Toyota Owners Forum about starting in like 2018 or 19, there is an evap system that, and this person actually posted a picture of their owner's manual. It says about 5 hours after shutting off the vehicle, it will run for a number of minutes. And it actually says 5 hours. And it was funny that, Rick, that stuck out to me because you said like 5 hours. And it just says it will run for up to 20 minutes, and then it's an evap.
Yeah, read a little bit more. I got to learn something here about what's going on.
Leak detection pump like Chrysler uses.
My wife's 2018 RAV4 cycles the evap system 5 hours after the car is off for 20 minutes. It's in the manual. And then someone else says, I appreciate that. I just looked in the manual. There's a lot of information in that manual, and it's in there. So maybe check that in your owner's manual.
That'd be a new one for us to start learning about, too.
Yeah,
so after 5 hours, if it cycles it to open it and close it and then shuts it back off after 20 minutes, that would make sense.
Is it doing a test, Russ? Is that what it's doing?
Well, it's probably equalizing pressures because the car's cooled off, the exhaust is cooled off, everything. So it's opening that canister back there to vent the tank and then closing back up again to keep it closed, prevent fumes from evaporating. But it's equalizing pressure.
So they're venting it through the vapor canister, so it shouldn't be
so
venting.
You might be hearing a click, 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 click under
So if it was in your garage,
you're
not like you're going to smell something. It should be venting fairly clean. Interesting.
Yeah, so there you go. Rick, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Give us if you find that out, give us a message back. Shoot us a message and tell us. 866-594-4150. All right. Are we good now? We ready to go eat? Thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning. This is a rare, never before.
This is an entire after-hours show.
Saturday morning. We did a Saturday evening not too long ago. 2 years ago, we did a Saturday live show.
Look at Russ's.
Doug's giving us the hold on.
Somebody's trying to get a last-minute call in.
They better. I'll say this: they better come on. If it's just something
bumper music's playing.
Yeah, if they said, "Oh, just tell the guys this," and
This
then
is like holding the plane door
they don't want to come on, I'm going to be super
on a
mad.
Saturday. This is like holding the plane door. We all got lots of things we want to do after we have our fun.
But yeah, we are in here on a Saturday.
Oh, hold the door, but I'm not coming.
Doug is buying breakfast.
Did you close the door on him? Sorry.
He just said.
Can't wait.
All right. There you go. Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us. This was fun. We had a lot of. I'm looking at the numbers on the viewers and stuff. Thanks for tuning into our Facebook feed, YouTube. It's been fun, and we will maybe do this again sometime. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm up for it. Maybe.
Maybe.
Had a lot of things we want to do today.
Thanks everybody. Remember,